Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Nautical, Retired Veterans, Awakening Yamamoto Genryūsai Template. Chapter 31. At the same time, Deserted Island. Physical strength alone is enough for me to block Marine Admiral's attack. Bai felt the collision of the two fights, and knew doubt in his heart. However, my real strength will never be my physical strength. Determines some final things to be sure of. Bai raised his head. Take a peek at the roster of horrors that Marine is throwing at any cost to surround this deserted island today. Bai's indifferent eyes began to show a hint of coldness. The real battle, it's time to start. At this time, Akainu snorted coldly when he heard this, and stared at Bai firmly. At this time, are you ready to use your full strength? Or, you, an arrogant guy, already knows that no matter what kind of fire-related abilities you have in this world, in front of lava, they are just low-level abilities that are not popular. Akainu's anger. It was he who had watched the recorded projection of Bai annihilating the pacifist fleet. Obviously a swordsman, facing the situation that has reached the end of the road, now. When Bai fought against him, he didn't even use the weapon on his waist. Facing such an arrogant guy, Akainu's nerves couldn't stop beating, and the veins on his forehead popped up. As Marine Admiral, the existence that makes countless pirates in this sea change their faces. Akainu absolutely does not allow anyone to dare to belittle himself. What's more, there is just an old guy who should have been abandoned by the times long ago and has not been famous for a week. Uninfluential low-level ability. Bai heard Akainu's words. Look at Akainu's arrogance that dismisses any flames. This should be the funniest joke Bai has heard these days. Any fire ability is inferior to Akainu's lava fruit ability. It seems that Akainu, no, it should be that the fire ability of One Piece world is indeed very weak. So weak that Akainu mistakenly thought that lava would be stronger than all fire abilities. But don't forget, lava is lava. It is precisely because of the temperature released by the flame that the minerals are melted and formed. And Ryujin Jakka in his hand. Bai placed Ryujin Jakka in front of him with his left hand. Shikai's flames only. The flame temperature will reach as high as 5,700 degrees Celsius on the surface of the sun. The heat released is enough to turn everything in this world into ashes. That's why Bai has never really released the true full picture of Ryujin Jakka. But Bai has no intention of arguing with Akainu. Because now there is finally a place where he can unleash his strength without any scruples. We'll tell Akainu clearly, what is the real, blazing hell. It is just Akainu's self-righteous idea that the lava fruit has the power to restrain all flames. Are you finally going to show your strength? But even so, your ending will not change. Akainu saw Bai place his right hand on Ryujin Jakka's dark purple hilt. He snorted coldly. Hot lava erupted from Akainu's body. Suddenly, it was a scene of destruction that melted all around. However, Bai didn't respond at all. Because Bai holds Ryujin Jakka's dark purple hilt in his right hand. Feel the emotion that Ryujin Jakka seems to cheer. At this moment, Bai wondered how long the deserted island under his feet could last. But the moment this idea appeared in Bai's mind, Bai erased it. This kind of thinking is not what we should have now. Then, far away, Kizaru, who had been watching the battle with a serious face, suddenly felt a bad premonition. Kizaru's expression changed slightly, ready to remind Akainu. But as a large number of orange-red flames crazily surged on Bai's body. At sea, the Marine fleet, CP0 and others didn't realize what was going to happen next. Bai looked at everything in front of him indifferently, and had already slowly spoken the Shikai language that Ryujin Jakka would show the true whole picture. Everything is ashes. Ryujin Jakka. Next moment. The Marine fleet at sea has not yet reacted. Suddenly, all the flames frantically rushed towards Ryujin Jakka in Bai's hands. At the same time, at this moment, the entire deserted island can be seen with the naked eye that high temperature is escaping outwards. Centered on Bai, the flame is like a taboo zone. The ground beneath my feet began to thirst and crack. Nearby plants withered and were reduced to swift ashes by the flames. Then spread to the distant forest, the entire desert island. Visible to the naked eye. Compared to Akainu turning the vicinity of the body into lava. The high temperature escaping from Ryujin Jakka has already turned the entire deserted island into a fire hell. And the frighteningly high temperature has begun to escape to the deserted island. Clatter. The sea trembled all around, and the flowing air seemed to freeze. The suffocating sense of oppression fell on the deserted island of the Grand Line from this moment. The orange-red flame soaring into the sky is like hell, igniting Baiyi as everything near the center. The earth quickly dried up, cracked, and collapsed. Plants die, are set on fire, and are reduced to ashes. The hot flame escapes under the high temperature. Visible to the naked eye. The sandy land on the deserted island is gradually turning red. It's melting. Not only that, take this desert island as the center. The astonishingly high temperature continues to escape. The surrounding sea is gradually emitting white steam. That is, as the sea steaming, evaporating. Hey, what happened on that island? Did Akainu Admiral use his full strength? On the warship, facing this sudden horror picture, the Marines collectively changed color. But then the scene on the deserted island came into view. But it made their hearts tremble. Found only on deserted islands. The source of all this today. That is the full view of Ryujin Jakka holding the flame bathing. An old and strong figure stood there, although there is no movement in place. But the overwhelming sense of oppression coming from above the deserted island. But it reached its peak in the hearts of everyone who witnessed Ryujin Jakka's Shikai. Everything is ashes, Ryujin Jakka. Baiyi is holding Ryujin Jakka. Watch to unleash the full power of Ryujin Jakka's true Shikai. It will cause such a terrifying momentum. Even Baiyi was amazed. After all, this is Shikai. In case of Ryujin Jakka's Bankai, it must be as Baiyi thought before. It's only a matter of time before the entire Grand Line is vaporized by Ryujin Jakka. Okay, now is the beginning of the real battle. Baiyi felt the island rapidly begin to melt under the full temperature of Ryujin Jakka's descent. Baiyi is not wasting time. Indifferent eyes looked at Akainu. Akainu looked at everything that was burning nearby. Akainu looked at Baiyi in front of him, his eyes shone with disbelief compared to before. The power of that fire. What exactly are devil fruit abilities? No one could feel the changes nearby more clearly than Akainu. It is for this reason that Akainu clearly knows. The changes in this island today are not at all the result of his lava fruit power. In this world, there is such a powerful fire ability. But, even so, there was no panic in Akainu's eyes. As Marine Admiral, Akainu is still convinced at this moment. His lava fruit ability is the nemesis of all fire abilities. Then, Akainu attacked first without hesitation. However, this time, Akainu's idea is really coming to nothing. Big, fire breathing, jumping up, hot lava poured towards Baiyi again. Facing Akainu's attack, Ryujin Jakka fully revealed for the first time. Baiyi's heart is very peaceful now. Raise your hand. Wave the Ryujin Jakka, and then to the great eruption that is slashing towards the attack. The whole movement looked extremely slow in Akainu's eyes. In fact, Baiyi's shot happened in a very short time. In the eyes of people who were shocked in the sea outside. That is, staring at Baiyi's actions only felt a sudden blur in front of his eyes. Next moment, boom, the blade bathed in flames in Baiyi's hand released a flame wall, like a large palm. Straight into the sky. That's it, see how I smash him. Akainu let out a roar. The lava erupted in full force. Next moment, the oncoming wall of flames is about to meet in great eruption. Akainu's face changed slightly. Unbelievable shock flashed in his eyes. Because, as a Logia lava fruit ability user, he actually felt the temperature from the flame. How can that be? Since eating the lava fruit ability, even jumping into magma, it will have no effect on him. Ordinary flames don't even have temperature. For him, it has no effect on him like the sun shining on his body. But this time, as the flame wall continued to dilate the pupils, the distance was shortened. The high temperature became more and more obvious. Had to let Akainu face reality. The flames released by Baiyi. The temperature is actually higher than his lava fruit ability. At the same time, great eruption meets the attack released by Baiyi. Inevitable. Akainu believes that lava can restrain all fire abilities. Any fire power will become fragile in front of lava. Result: Reality slapped Akainu hard in the face. The omnipotent lava power was swallowed by the flames ahead. It was too late to wait for Akainu's reaction. A burning sensation hit. It was Bai Yi's release of Fire City that continued to rush towards Akainu without sparing any effort. This is, what are you kidding? Akainu witnessed that the fire could swallow lava. Afterwards, the huge palm formed by the flames wrapped around him. Akainu roared in disbelief. With 5 fingers clenched into a fist, the arm turned into lava, billowing black smoke rising. Outrageously blasted out again, Akainu forcefully prepares to break through. But Akainu overlooked one point. If the temperature of the lava is overwhelmed by the flame, but it will cause a more violent reaction. Then, just as Akainu's attack landed on the flames coming in front of him, the huge flame wall that looked like a palm exploded directly in the drastic change of Akainu's face. Boom! Akainu's whole body was almost swallowed. Great Admiral! In the distance, seeing this scene, everyone in the fleet collectively gasped. Marine Admiral, he failed for the first time. And at this time, thick dust and smoke covered the air. A cloud of lava fell from midair. It falls to the ground and gradually takes the form of Akainu. That's it, Akainu Admiral. Very good. Everyone was relieved to see Akainu reappear. But, don't wait for thoughts to drop. Cough, cough, cough. Akainu, who remained elemental, suddenly coughed out a mouthful of blood. Akainu saw blood dripping on the lava and quickly turning to ashes. Akainu's pupils shrank suddenly. How come? Others don't know, but he was completely elementalized in the explosion just now. And Bai Yi's attack, obviously it didn't make him feel any power of armament hockey. But, pain from internal organs, Akainu knew it all too well. I hurt myself, and most importantly, in this world, there is a power that can harm, elementalization, without using hockey's ability. Such an unprecedented thing. The shock to Akainu was even more shocking than just discovering that Bai Yi's flame was far hotter than the lava temperature. At the same time, Akainu gritted his teeth, looking at Bai Yi in disbelief. Sudden, a golden glowing particle quickly approached Bai Yi from the distant sea without warning. This is, Marine Admiral, Kizaru moved. If it is usual. Akainu absolutely disdained to let Kizaru, who usually loses Marine's face, help him. But the various abilities that Bai Yi has shown now. It vaguely made Akainu feel that the seriousness of the situation might be beyond expectation one after another. There are still hidden monsters in this world that are as threatening as the 4 emperors. Therefore, Kizaru chooses to fight at this time. Akainu's heart immediately felt a lot more at ease. Because in Akainu, and even the defaults of naval headquarters and world government, even the 4 emperors pirates from New World, in the situation of fighting alone, no matter who, there is absolutely no way to defeat the combination of 2 admirals. That's why there are 2 admirals. It is to ensure that Bai Yi can be absolutely wiped out. With this thought, sudden, Akainu sees Kizaru preparing to attack Bai Yi. He didn't care much about the method. As long as it can kill the enemy, there is no problem by any means. But suddenly, I felt pain in my internal organs again. Akainu couldn't help but change his face. Big drink. Porosalino, don't get close to that guy. Even without the power of armament hockey, that guy can deal damage to elementalization. The voice fell. I saw particles emitting golden light appearing behind Bai Yi. Kizaru's upper body has been revealed. Kizaru heard the words. His face couldn't help but change. Hey, Sakazuki. You should talk about such important things sooner. In Kizaru's hand is the Amazono Cloud Sword, which is condensed with the ability of the Shining Fruit. Just about to cut it off. Ryujin Jakka, who was already waiting for Kizaru in Bai Yi's hand, had already slashed towards the back. The rising flames and high temperature swept away in the color change of Kizaru's pupils. And the blow at this moment. It is Bai Yi who has been waiting for Kizaru, the only threat in this battle, for a long time. Bai Yi. Now, it's my turn. Swish. For a moment, Ryujin Jakka bathed in flame streaks through the void. I saw the flames with terrifying high temperature rush towards Kizaru like a tornado-shaped flame wall in an instant. The flame won't dissipate until it turns the enemy into ashes. Torch. Slashed with one blow. With Kizaru giving up the sneak attack almost without hesitation, direct elementalization away from Bai Yi. Bai Yi looked at Akainu without looking back. The indifferent eyes remained unchanged, and he opened his mouth and said, "Now let me see Marine's confidence in this siege, otherwise I will be very disappointed in Marine Admiral's combat power." You fool. Hearing this, Akainu's pupils froze. Standing on the ground that has begun to melt in front of Ryujin Jakka's constant release of heat. Akainu stared at Bai Yi holding the bathing flame Ryujin Jakka in front of him. The veins on Akainu's forehead popped out. "Don't be too arrogant. Who do you think this old man is?" Shout angrily. The great sound is transmitted far away, as if to shake the sea. Thereafter, Akainu clenched his fists. The moment the voice fell, in the eyes that can move anyone enough, a large amount of smoky lava began to emerge from Akainu's body. Boom! The strong vibration was transmitted to the entire desert island. A large amount of lava is trying to flood the entire island like a pouring river. Akainu himself, the whole body is bathed in lava, standing in the center with a completely elemental posture. The breath on his body is compared to landing on a desert island. It can be seen with the naked eye that it has exploded several times. Bai Yi saw this scene. There is no surprise in the eyes. Or, Akainu is only now showing his true strength. All demon fruit power owns the strongest whole cards. Devil fruit awakens. After all, being able to become a Marine Admiral is known as the highest combat power of the world government and the Marine government. Any Marine Admiral, they all have the terrifying strength to destroy the country alone. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a humanoid natural disaster, moving at sea. Feeling the bursts of impact and oppression coming from Akainu. Very strong. This is the intuitive feeling in Bai Yi's eyes. As expected of Admiral who can become Marines, highest combat power, standing among the group of monsters at the top of the world. Akainu alone, except for the 4 Emperor's pirates. Even in New World, no one would want to face such a powerful monster. But, that's for Bai Yi who didn't unleash the true power of Ryujin Jakka Shikai. Suddenly, Akainu, who was in a state of complete annoyance, moved. Akainu exerted force on his feet. The land turned into lava rippled. The sea shakes in the distance. Akainu suddenly came in front of Bai Yi, keeping his distance this time. Sanity is not completely swallowed by anger. Thereafter, a large amount of lava has already gathered in the elemental state of Akainu's right arm. Roaring, Akainu blatantly blasted out, "Die, go." The pouring lava dilated Bai Yi's pupils. Face this scene. Bai Yi is holding Ryujin Jakka. His face remained unchanged. Put it horizontally in front of your body, and cut it out with a single knife. The high temperature as high as the surface of the sun rose instantly. Wherever Ryujin Jakka crosses, all will be reduced to ashes. But at this moment, pieces of dazzling golden light lit up in the distance. Kizaru appeared with a disheveled face, looked at Bai Yi who looked like a monster, and said, Hey, it's not a good thing not to take this old man seriously." The voice fell. Hundreds of thousands of light bullets flew towards Bai Yi. Kizaru keeps starting shot. That's Kizaru Admiral's ability. Both admirals are in battle at the same time. Marine at sea was shocked when he saw this scene. CP0 showed a hint of hatred towards Bai Yi in his eyes. Both admirals shot, plus they will act secretly. The ending of the man who dared to provoke the world government on the deserted island. This time it was already doomed. And at this moment, deserted island, Bai Yi's face was very calm. There was no surprise about Kizaru's sudden attack. One-click solution to Admiral. Bai Yi has no such hope. The temperature released by Ryujin Jakka is indeed terrifying. The flame has a high temperature comparable to the surface of the sun. Anything that passes by will be completely reduced to ashes. But that premise is when the flame completely hits the enemy. But, even so, if only Kizaru was just attacking in the same way as playing house. But it's not enough to watch. Bai Yi slashed at Akainu with a slash of high-temperature flames. Ryujin Jakka streaked through the air. I saw the air was suddenly ignited. A wall of flames soared into the sky. Then Kizaru's hundreds of golden light bullets were all blocked. In other words, in front of a flame that was as hot as the surface of the sun. Even Kizaru's attack cannot escape the fate of being engulfed. But with only 2 blows, the joint attack of the two was resolved. After Akainu and Kizaru showed a brief shock, they didn't stop. Because it is against their level of top combat power. Just want to. There is no problem in continuing to fight for days and nights. And I am convinced that Bai Yi is indeed comparable to Admiral. No, it should be enough to threaten Marine Admiral's strength. The two of them were already prepared for the battle to be impossible to end in a short time. Then, Kizaru put away his usual sloppy look. Keep shooting towards Bai Yi. The golden radiance continuously condenses moves. Boom to Bai Yi. Never stop. As for the idea of attacking Bai Yi again, Kizaru had no such thoughts at all at this time, because he had just faced the flame released by Ryujin Jakka in Bai Yi's hand. Although he gave up the sneak attack without hesitation at the last moment, he chose to leave elementally. The flame only kept a very short distance from him, even for an instant. But Kizaru himself was at that moment. But I felt a strong sense of threat crazily rushing into my heart. Can't touch. Anyway, you must never touch the flames on the blade of the weapon in that man's hand. Whoosh, 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 boom, boom, boom. Kizaru kept flashing his figure in midair with his speed. It released what looked like endless laser attacks. Akainu is after Kizaru joins the battle. Perhaps firmly believe that no monster in this world can fight two admirals at the same time. Therefore release the devil fruit ability after awakening. Akainu chose to join forces with Kizaru in the true sense. Keep every attack at a high frequency and continue. Even if the tempers of the two do not match. But as a disciple of the same teacher, the experience of cooperation is still very sufficient. Only compared to the past. At present, it is more biased towards, as a last resort. Because only Bai Yi has really fought against him. Only then can we understand more clearly the strength of the worst man, who must be wiped out. Boom. The desert island shook violently. It looked like it was on the verge of falling. Highlight the terrible battle above. But even with two marine admirals, Bai Yi can easily block the attacks of Akainu and Kizaru. Suddenly, not far from the sea, several gunshots sounded, breaking through the desert island as fighting fiercely. Akainu and Kizaru couldn't help but eat. It was a few special seastone bullets flying towards Bai Yi. Akainu subconsciously looked towards the direction of the warship and said, "What are you doing?" Humph. Above the warship, the man wearing the antler mask confronts Akainu from a distance. Disdainfully said, "Of course it's to help you Marines, see. That island is already in a state of collapse at any time. You Marines haven't taken down that guy for a long time. This time, with our help, we will definitely be able to wipe out that old guy faster." The man with the antler mask said proudly. Actually, battle on a desert island. It has already affected the fleet. Originally, the surrounding sea was just suddenly steaming near the deserted island. But now, the terrible high temperature has caused some of Marine's warships to begin to melt. Even if they don't want to admit it. But there is no denying it. The sea, it's evaporating. Stay here. Sooner or later, their safety will be threatened. Therefore, in order to end the battle faster, he ordered the people of CP0 to prepare for the opportunity to fight Bai Yi, Akainu and Kizaru on the deserted island. He firmly believes, as long as a bullet with seastone quality can be driven into Bai Yi's body, this battle should be over. There is no need to continue wasting the time of adults living in the Holy Land like Akainu and Kizaru. Let the world nobles in the Holy Land hear the good news earlier. In the eyes of a tall man with an antler mask, nothing is more important than this. You, stupid, idiot. Akainu heard the words, gritting his teeth secretly. Although he doesn't mind using any means, as long as the purpose is achieved. But with the current battle on this deserted island, the CP0 people choose to intervene in this way, which is not helping at all. After all, he doesn't have time to worry about the lives of a group of guys who can't help. Just thinking about it, Akainu is going to continue to attack Bai Yi. Available at this time, Akainu looked at Bai Yi again, and what he saw made Akainu's face change. I saw that the seastone bullet was easily blocked by the scorching flame. And behind the flames dissipated, Bai Yi is holding the handle of the Ryujin Jakka knife bathed in the flames of the surface temperature of the sun in his right hand, and is in a state of strength. Now, it's my turn. Bai Yi noticed that the island under his feet was already crumbling. His indifferent eyes flashed sharply. The robust muscles on his body began to bulge piece by piece, and the scars left by the naked eye began to be clearly revealed due to the rapidly rising temperature. Arm strength, blue veins revealed. Next moment, Ryujin Jakka slashed out. Boom, boom, boom. The ground of the melting desert island trembled constantly, and could no longer bear the terrible pressure. Straight torn apart in horrifying horror. At the same time, the sea is boiling. Evaporation. White steam filled the air crazily. These are pillars of fire that are releasing a 5 incomparable temperature. In an instant, it continued to rise around the torn island. Boom, boom. The torn apart island was trembling violently, screaming as if it was about to be burned. At the same time, the high temperature enough to sweep the world is accompanied by countless sparks erupting. Visible to the naked eye, the terrifying heat wave evaporated all the sea around the island, boiling, exposing the soil that has been eroded by seawater for many years, but it has long since contained no trace of water and melted the soil. 4. That deserted island is torn apart. This must be a lie, right? Hiss, so hot. On the warship, the shocked Marine couldn't help but make a sound. Someone subconsciously touched the edge of the warship, and the scorching heat immediately made people withdraw their hands. On the head, limbs, and back, I suddenly felt a large amount of sweat flowing out in a high-temperature environment. Some people wipe it subconsciously. But suddenly he was horrified to find that the sweat dripping from his forehead had evaporated in midair before it dripped onto the deck. Marine's expression changed drastically upon discovering this scene. He couldn't help but look up at the deserted island that was torn apart, facing the pillars of flames that seemed to ignite the sky at this moment. Feel the astonishingly terrifying high temperature that is constantly escaping. There was a shudder on someone's face. Because even if there is a distance from the sea, the heat wave from that deserted island, this sea area has been affected by such terror. If continue like this, die. An unstoppable fearful thought popped into my mind. And on the leading warship, CP0 members hold one of the few rare seastone processed precision weapons in the world. His pupils widened at the sudden change on the deserted island, and he was almost dumbfounded. Strange monster. Looking at the splintered deserted island, the old and strong man exuding a frightening aura is holding the bathing flame Ryujin Jakka. Even people with CPO couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Then, before he could react, a scalding heat wave suddenly came from the weapon in his hand, causing the weapon to drop directly to the ground. CP0 members subconsciously pick up weapons. Suddenly his pupils widened. He was horrified to find the incomparably hard seastone actually started to turn red, exuding an astonishingly high temperature. The first reaction of CP0 members is disbelief. What kind of joke is this? Seastone is one of the hardest substances in the world. If seastone becomes like this, a horrified thought suddenly popped up in the CPO member's heart, and he looked at the nearby marine fleet. I can only see what I see. The CPO member's heart trembled. I saw that the front ends of most of the warships have begun to melt. Those muzzles that originally fired shells were also difficult to hold on to in the face of high temperatures. This whole fleet. The CPO member swallows a mouthful of saliva whose throat is already thirsty and does not exist. He looked at the deserted island in horror. Follow this progression. Even if the opponent doesn't make a move, the fleet assembled by Buster Call will be destroyed. At this moment, the member of CP0 gave birth to an indelible fear of Bai Yi. In this world, how can such a powerful man exist? At the same time, now, above the desert island. Rumbling. The splintered desert island is fast approaching its fate of being reduced to ashes. This fate is destined to be unchangeable. And at this time, the Reiatsu poured out by Bai Yi has already covered the whole body like a materialized flame. Looking not far away, Kizaru and Akainu were also shocked. Bai Yi looked sideways at the direction of the CP0 unit under the world government, a naval fleet. But just this indifferent glance let the tall man with the antler mask feel fear. Then, I saw Bai Yi raised Ryujin Jakka with his right hand. Seeing this, the tall man with the antler mask trembled violently in his heart. Couldn't help yelling loudly, "See, Marine, that monster, stop that guy." The man, who was afraid of feeling the fear of death for the first time, no longer cared about his image, and his previous attitude and relying on his identity were all left behind. Even if Bai Yi hasn't swung Ryujin Jakka out yet, This is the moment. Bai Yi brought to the Grand Line all the forces who will know this battle, no matter anyone, overwhelming absolute fear. At the same time, the moment the tall man with the antler mask spoke, Ryujin Jakka has fallen. Just as Bai Yi didn't take action against CP0 people at the beginning, it was because in Bai Yi's eyes, they were insignificant little characters from beginning to end. That's all. Wow. The air was instantly torn apart and ignited. The high-temperature flames comparable to the surface of the sun swept towards the members of the CP0 force at sea. Akainu and Kizaru's expressions changed drastically. That's from the world government. They wanted to make a move. But those pillars of flames that melted and torn apart the deserted island have already begun to gather towards them. Just like what Akainu thought just now. At this time. But there is no time to worry about the lives of a group of helpless guys. Then, the flames flew across the sea and sky. Without sparing any effort, he instantly engulfed the trembling CPO troop member warship. Akainu and Kizaru watched that scene, and their hearts couldn't help being shocked. Because this is the first time the two see each other clearly, what will happen if they touch that flame? The sea swept by the flames released by Ryujin Jakka evaporates in an instant. Expose the eerie dry seabed below. Countless steam just rose up. He was actually overwhelmed by the high temperature of the flames. As for the warship where the members of the CP0 unit are. Ash. That's right. At the moment of being wrapped in that high temperature flame, the entire warship and the CP0 troops on it were reduced to ashes. Scattered with the wind in the current sea that is continuously evaporating. Such terrifying strength. Hiss. The two subconsciously looked at each other, and then looked at Bai Yi, with unprecedented solemnity in their eyes, as well as unstoppable shock and ups and downs in their hearts. And at this moment, Bai Yi holds the Ryujin Jakka, and the almost materialized Reiatsu envelops the body like a flame. After Bai Yi finished the insignificant little things, it would probably take less than a few tens of seconds to realize that the island under his feet, no, maybe it would be completely reduced to ashes in a shorter time. He looked at Akainu and Kizaru, and with their hearts trembling, he said, "Now, it's time to end this battle." The indifferent voice fell. Boom, boom. The pillar of flame rising from this deserted island that was quickly reduced to ashes seemed to be alive, and quickly began to gather towards Akainu and Kizaru. Witnessed the consequences of exposure to that flame. Akainu and Kizaru's expressions changed drastically. At the same time, the other side, Marineford, Naval Headquarters. The battle between Bai Yi and Marine Admiral in the first half of the Grand Line is destined to attract the attention of the whole world. After all, never before had Naval Headquarters dispatched such a formidable array of two Marine Admirals against a single enemy. Even in this special period, Marine did not hesitate to risk being attacked by the Whitebeard pirates, known as the world's strongest man. Don't even make such a move. It can be seen Naval Headquarters' attitude towards Bai Yi. It must be wiped out as quickly as possible at any cost. So that the whole world would know how foolish it was to touch the celestial dragons. And at this moment, Naval Headquarters is naturally the one who will be watching the battle most closely. Sengoku, there is no need to worry about things over there. No one in this world can win the shots of the two most powerful admirals. Marshal's office. Crane, known as the Great Advisor by the outside world, stood by the window, her aged eyes staring at the seemingly calm Naval Headquarters port, but in fact the sea was constantly surging. Now Marine's main focus. Crane turned to look at Sengoku. Don't ignore Whitebeard's strategy just because the focus is on the terrifying strength of the world's strongest man. Sengoku heard the words. There was no rebuttal, and there was a touch of approval on his face. The most terrifying thing about Whitebeard is that he is known as the strongest man of this era, possessing the power to destroy the world. But under that incomparable power, as the existence of the same era, Sengoku knows very well that the past Whitebeard was no less difficult than the Roger pirates. Back in the days of the rocks, Roger was one of the most powerful monsters before he was famous. And Whitebeard, if it wasn't for the incredible value of his family, even as long as the guy has the will, can become the next One Piece. That Whitebeard guy, what the hell is he going to do next? Sengoku murmured. Suddenly, no, it's not good. Marshal Sengoku, there is urgent information. A Marine pushed open the door and ran over with a nervous expression. When Sengoku and Suru saw this, their hearts suddenly sank. Sengoku asked, "What happened? Could it be?" Sengoku's face showed a dignified look. "Has the strongest man in the world already left?" Whitebeard. Crane's heart sank. Marine shook his head. "No, it's not." Sengoku and Suru's expressions changed. "Not from the Whitebeard pirates. What happened?" Sengoku pressed on. Marine sensed the rapidly increasing dignified atmosphere in the office, bit the bullet and reported. "Yes, our people found another 4 Emperors pirate at the entrance of New World. The opponent is the captain of the Beast's pirates, Beast, Kaido Trace." The voice fell. "What?" Disbelief welled up in Sengoku's eyes. Kaido, isn't that guy messing around in New World? Why come to the first half of the Grand Line at this time?" The crane on the side looked solemn, with a bad feeling in his heart. "So where is Kaido now?" Marine stammered. "Kaido ignored our Marines and just crossed the red line by using their ability to fly." Crossing the red line, the ugliness on Sengoku's face reached its peak. "That guy, what exactly do you want to do? Are you crazy? Or is it that the Beast's pirates are gathering people to capture the territory of the Whitebeard pirates? It's just a cover from beginning to end. The actual truth is that Whitebeard guy teamed up with Kaido. No, with the irresolvable hatred that those two guys once formed, can Whitebeard do this for the successor of the worst bloodline?" The expression on Sengoku's face was changing. Obviously Sengoku couldn't believe that Kaido would come to the first half of the Grand Line at this time. After all, inside all of Marine's current plans. But Kaido was not counted from the beginning to the end. With Kaido's character, no matter how mischievous it is usually only in the New World. As long as Kaido does not come to the Grand Line, Marine's plan will not be affected at all. On the contrary, because of Kaido's commotion in New World, it will bring huge psychological pressure to the members of the Whitebeard pirates. So when he learned that Kaido left the Beast's pirates camp, Sengoku didn't care. He can be said to have considered all kinds of possibilities. But Kaido chose the most impossible behavior. Sengoku's face was extremely serious. A Whitebeard pirate group is enough to deserve Marine's unprecedented lineup of combat power. Now if you suddenly add another Kaido. Sengoku's heart sank suddenly. Current state of affairs. The severity is simply terrible. Almost without thinking, Sengoku looked at the Marine sharply. "Go, let Admiral Aokiji, who is already on standby, stop that Kaido. In any case, before Akainu Admiral and Kizaru Admiral come back, Kaido must not be allowed to affect the current plan." "What? Aokiji Admiral are also dispatched?" Hearing this, Marine's eyes were filled with shock. All 3 admirals leave naval headquarters. But an unprecedented event. If the Whitebeard pirates take their chances. Marine's heart trembled. But still nodded and said, "Yes, Marshal Sengoku." Marine left. Sengoku's face was extremely serious. "Kaido, what the hell did that messy guy come to the Grand Line for the first half? He didn't stay in New World honestly. Could it be that his goal was naval headquarters?" Sengoku clenched his fists, then subconsciously looked at the crane. "By the way, what is the situation with Akainu and Kizaru? Once the target is wiped out, let the 2 of them come back immediately, and don't stay for a while. Now naval headquarters cannot lack their combat power." As he spoke, Sengoku saw Crane took out a phone bug and contacted him to destroy Baiyi's marine fleet. However, Crane did not respond for a long time. Sengoku had a bad feeling in his heart. "What's the current situation over there?" Crane didn't speak, and put down the phone bug in his hand. He saw an unprecedented seriousness suddenly appeared on Crane's face. Slowly said, "I'm afraid that something happened to Akainu and Kizaru. Sengoku, who was supposed to keep in touch with Marine, is no longer available." "What?" Heard the words. Sengoku's expression changed drastically. Get up abruptly, recalling the picture of Baiyi evaporating the sea recorded by the phone bug earlier. "Unbelievable," said. "Is that man strong enough to fight against 2 Marine admirals? Are you kidding me?" And at this moment, the news comes as Kaido arrives in the first half of the Grand Line from New World. The entire front half of the Grand Line couldn't help but gasp. Hearing the color change. Kaido, what did he do in the first half of the Grand Line? Is another 4 emperors going to take the opportunity to attack naval headquarters? My God, my god, is the first half of the Grand Line going to be destroyed? Countless people showed disbelief and couldn't sit still. After all, even if the reputation of the four emperors is spread all over the world, children will be frightened and cry when they hear it. One can imagine, in this special period, the impact of Kaido's sudden arrival is no less than that of dropping a nuclear bomb in the first half of the Grand Line. At the same time, everyone in the world is speculating about Kaido's purpose in the first half of the Grand Line. Available at New World de Res Rosa Kingdom here. Dover. According to our family information, Kaido has arrived at the Grand Line, and that monster with terrifying strength suddenly asked about the guy who killed the celestial dragons. Could it be? Torible's pupils flickered in shock as he looked at Doflamingo. The world is guessing Kaido's purpose, but their Don Quixote family has vaguely guessed. The purpose of Kaido, probably for that folk monster out of West Blue. Kaido, Whitebeard, and that monster whose strength is as unfathomable as the abyss, plus Marine Admiral dispatched. Doflamingo suddenly called out names. Looking in the direction of the first half of the Grand Line, Doflamingo's face showed rare palpitations in his life. According to this progress, the world government may also have to know it is already going to be unbearable. After all, this is the most unprecedented dogfight in the world since the old days of the rocks. One can't. Doflamingo murmured, I'm afraid the world will be destroyed because of this. What people from the world government want? Torible's heart trembled when he heard the word world government. The senior cadres of the Don Quixote family knew the true identity of Doflamingo. Therefore, there is almost no pirate force in this world who knows the horror of world government better than their family. After all, even the marine government has to face the upcoming attack of the Whitebeard pirates. The world government didn't show any signs of worry. It is conceivable that the one standing at the pinnacle of power and standing in the world for 800 years has made all countries in the world confident in their absolute power behemoth. If you say world government from someone else's mouth, you may also end up in trouble. Toribble naturally didn't believe it. But from Doflamingo's mouth, Torible's heart reacted violently. Once the world government also participates in it. That is a terrifying power that ordinary people can't imagine. No matter how powerful a kingdom is in this world, it will be wiped out overnight. Sabayati Bottom Islands. Kaido, is that guy here? An old man with silver hair suddenly looked up. I can only see what I see. It was a black shadow covering the sky over the Sabayati Islands. Facing the scene where the sky suddenly turns black, countless people raised their heads subconsciously. Next second, his pupils widened, and it was the cold air rushing from the soles of his feet to his forehead in an instant, and the things in his hands fell to the ground unconsciously. Because within reach, it was an extremely huge dragon descending from the red line on a cloud of flames. An overwhelming terrifying aura came from the sky. The entire Sabayati Islands could not help feeling desperate. But fortunately, the commotion here didn't last long. Kaido doesn't care about these ants at all. His purpose. Just interested in a guy. As for Marine's reaction, whether the first half of the Grand Line will be in chaos, Kaido doesn't care about these things at all. In his eyes, even the so-called supernova pirates in the first half of the Grand Line who offered a reward of hundreds of millions of Baileys are nothing more than a group of brats playing house games called kings. That's all what he seeks. But a happy battle in this boring world. Waging war, or seeking suicide, is his only pleasure at the moment. Now Kaido only hopes for that guy's strength. Don't let yourself down. Kaido, who fully exposed the dragon body of the green dragon fruit, suddenly accelerated, and started to move forward in the first half of the Grand Line. The other side. The whole world couldn't imagine that this unprecedented storm would be caused by a single person. In the first half of the Grand Line, it was set off by one person. Bai Yi is here, under the blue sky, deserted island. This area was completely engulfed by the flames released by Ryujin Jakka. It should be said that the sea with a radius of 100 kilometers has been evaporated by high temperature. A large number of Earth battlefields with cracks and dry seabeds are exposed here. With Bai Yi swinging the knife, the flames from Ryujin Jakka's knife were thrown away. Such a terrifying scene. Cooperate with Bai Yi's move. Already highlighted this in the opinion of Akainu and Kizaru. The battle that will last for days and nights has come to an end. And this time the Marine government is preparing for the result of the battle that is bound to wipe out Bai Yi. Buster Call. More than 30 assembled warships were wiped out. Known as the strongest shield of celestial dragons, the CP-0 Feet troops who followed the action this time were all wiped out. 2 Marine Admirals, unknown to the outside world. And each of these is enough news to make one's scalp tingle. Now they are all gathered in one person. So, the next day, when people discovered that the entire sea area in the first half of the Grand Line was evaporated. The result of this, monster versus marine monster with the highest combat power, battle. It is tantamount to a terrible earthquake sweeping across the whole world in an instant. And the first to receive the news. It was also the first to show an unbelievable reaction. Naturally, various towns, islands, kingdoms, pirate forces, etc. located in the first half of the Grand Line. In front of the shock of this big earthquake news. Everyone's reaction. The first time it was impossible. The news of Marine Admiral's previous dispatch almost caused a sensation in the entire Grand Line. On the island near Marineford, someone saw the Buster Call warships that symbolized elimination of evil. And the 2 Marine Admirals headed above. A terrifying lineup of this size. It is enough to make any power in the sea change face, and the 4 emperors will also be moved. Take it seriously. Not to mention, Marine is not facing endless enemies this time. Nor is it the 4 emperors pirate group that has a large number of forces under its command and is entrenched in the New World. That's just the first half of the Grand Line since North Blue came here. A lone man. That's all. Now Dahai is crazy like there are rumors that Marine failed again. How do they believe this? After all, when the 2 admirals were dispatched. Despite the world's attention, no one thought Marine would fail. Even the reason why all the Marine branches in the first half of the Grand Line entered a state of combat readiness. The purpose is also for naval headquarters to guard against the real threat from New World. Whitebeard pirates. But it doesn't matter what countless people in the first half of the Grand Line think. When a powerful force secretly dispatched his men to the sea area where Bai Yi and Akainu fought with Kizaru. See the recorded images sent back with your own eyes. In the picture above that made people tremble uncontrollably, all forces fell silent. There is no other reason. Above the recorded image. The sea, no, that can no longer be called a sea area. As far as the eye can see. Blue sky, that is, hundreds of miles of sea area have all disappeared. See, here. There is only one glimpse of the dry seabed land with cracks and no end in sight. If it wasn't clearly marked on the nautical chart as a sea area. Witnessed again. No one believed it at all. A battle actually evaporated the entire sea area in just one day. North Blue. As the news spreads. G64 branch. Colonel Carey. There is Bai Yi. No, there is news about that gentleman. A young Marine quickly ran to the port. The dark-skinned new Colonel Carey heard the words. Take it quickly. How's it going? Carey subconsciously turned to look. But the newspaper is in front of you. He didn't dare to read the news above. I'm afraid the news is the worst. Long after Bai Yi left the G64 branch. Marine of the G64 branch has been paying attention to Bai Yi, an old colonel who has worked hard. At first, when I heard that the old colonel actually had the ability to destroy the Marine fleet, they were relieved, and they were also shocked that the real strength of the old colonel was so powerful. But the good news didn't last long. When first heard 2 Marine admirals dispatched, Marine of the G64 branch couldn't help but tremble, and his heart was beating violently. As a Marine, they have naturally heard of Admiral's strength. Can be hailed as the highest combat power. All of them are monsters standing on the top of the sea. So the hearts of the G64 branch are almost all tightened. Until now the news came. Carey, who is currently the Marine Colonel of the G64 branch, dared not look at it for a while. He was very afraid of seeing the news that he least wanted to see. At this time, the nearby Marine came around, gritted his teeth and said indignantly, "Those fools from other branches of North Blue, and the newly appointed Rear Admiral, obviously we have reported the whole story to the highest responsible branch of North Blue. Those fools have been ignoring us for a long time. This is clearly trying to hide the fact that someone in Marine destroyed the town. That's right. If Colonel Bai hadn't blocked the passage from North Blue to the Grand Line before he left, we would all want to go to Naval Headquarters. Even if Mr. Bai's guilt cannot be mitigated, let those guys know what happened. Something happened. You say it one sentence at a time. Carrie interrupted in a deep voice. Okay, don't talk about this matter now, and don't mention the old colonel's name again. Someone is procrastinating, which means that the Lord must be very aware that someone is rotten to the bone, so don't add trouble to the Lord. That's it. Yes, Colonel Carey. Marine of the G64 branch looked at each other and nodded upon hearing this. Then, Carey moved the newspaper carefully. The heart started beating uncontrollably along with Marine, who was approaching nearby. Obviously, the news can be seen in a blink of an eye. It opened abruptly when everyone's heart was about to jump to their throats. When Marine couldn't resist helping Carey remove his hand first. Next second, the news came into view. The G64 branch was taken care of by Bai in the past, and even some Marine recruits from nearby towns who watched them grow up collectively stayed in place. His eyes widened, staring at the news in the newspaper. For a long time, someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Look at Carey. Colonel Carey. Hit me, is this true? Yuan, it turns out that that Lord is so powerful. I used to dare to disturb Mr. Bai's fishing. Now that I think about it, my little life will disappear at any time. Marine Admiral failed. At this moment, Carey's heart was also beating violently, and his face showed disbelief. And at this time when everyone's hearts are extremely tense. Suddenly, a Marine comes running. Colonel Carey, someone is coming outside. I want to see you. This sudden sound, it shocked everyone in the G64 branch. When he saw clearly that it was a companion, he immediately gritted his teeth. You idiot, scared me to death. One more time like this, I feel like I don't need to read the news in the newspaper anymore. I'm going to go straight to heaven. I'm sorry. The young Marine rubbed his head in embarrassment. At this moment, Carey asked. Just now you said there was someone outside. There was vigilance in his eyes. At this time, the instinctive reaction made Carey think that someone was against old Colonel Bai. He was about to say no. The young Marine nodded quickly and said, no, that's right, and that person claims to be Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army. The voice fell. Everyone in the G64 branch breathed a sigh of relief at first. It turned out that other branches were not looking for trouble. But immediately, he reacted. Everyone's expressions changed suddenly. Revolutionary Army. And, the leader of the Revolutionary Army known as the most ferocious criminal, Dragon. What is the other party doing here? And the Dragon stood outside. In my heart, I thought that when contacting a person, it is natural to collect as much information as possible about the other person. At the same time, with news like a major earthquake rapidly fermenting in the world. Just less than a day. Bai's fame has reached an extremely terrifying level in the first half of the Grand Line, all over the world. At the same time, start with North Blue killing the Celestial Dragons. The North Blue end from the Grand Line is closed. The Red Line was cut open, stopping the North Blue pirates. And then Bai was destroyed in one blow in the first half of the Grand Line. Vice Admiral led the pacifist fleet. Now due to the outbreak of the battle with Marine Admiral, hundreds of miles in the entire sea area have been evaporated. And news of the failure of Marine's second extermination operation came out. Facts about Bai have been uncovered one by one. Only then did everyone find out. If it was said that Bai dared to make a move to the world government and the Marine government, it would be tantamount to declaring war. In the eyes of countless people on the sea, Bai is a lunatic. Or simply want to make a big event that shocks the world. It will soon be suppressed by Marine's absolute combat power. But now, seeing that everything that is enough to shake the Grand Line converges on one person. Then at this moment, all they can feel is trembling. And without the slightest doubt, that one came from North Blue alone. Possess an overwhelming, terrorist combat power that is not lost to any Four Emperors pirate group in New World. The other side, reactions vary from place to place. Amazon Lily. 9 Snake Island. Grandma, do you know this person's past? Royal Palace. He was tall and slender, exuding aloofness all over his body, and his haughty tone carried unbelievable doubts. The speaker is none other than Boa Hancock, one of the Shichibukai known as the Pirate Queen. On the side, it is the former emperor of Nine Snake Island, who is comparable to the Grandma Yi in the Living Dictionary. The mother-in-law looked at the news in Hancock's hand. Wanted to find out about the man's past in North Blue above. But nothing. The mother-in-law shook her head and said solemnly, "This person is probably a monster living in seclusion among the people. At least in the Rocks era, or Roger's time, there were never any rumors of this person in the sea." Said here, Grandma Z looked up at Hancock. "Snake girl, don't be delusional. Although that man has overwhelming strength, if he wants to bring down the world government, it is definitely not something that can be done by relying on this level alone." The mother-in-law looked very serious. After all, even Marine Admiral is just a running dog under the world government. Even if they were as powerful as the Rocks pirates back then, the consequences of daring to touch those guys did not escape the fate of the pirates disbanding. Quote, "Are you teaching my concubine how to do things?" Hancock's face darkened slightly. The mother-in-law knows that Hancock touches certain things, and sometimes loses his rational character. Shook his head. Said, "All in all, I can only give advice based on past experience. In addition, Marine came to summon Shichibukai yesterday, and I have already refused on the grounds that you are unwell." The mother-in-law looked at the waters outside the Nine Snake Island. In the first half of the Grand Line today, Kaido, Whitebeard, the Marine government, and that monster whose strength is as deep as the abyss are far beyond what Marine can handle. I'm afraid the world government may have to take action in person. The voice fell. Hearing this, Hancock quietly clenched her slender white fingers and frowned. The other side, Sanctuary Mariajoy, world government. Any proposals on how to deal with that criminal? The empty top meeting room. The faces of the 5 old men opened in the shadows, revealing sharp eyes. In front, this is an old man with a white beard with the word, mountain, muscular, arms folded, over 70 years old. This person is not someone else. It is Kong Kong, the current Generalissimo of the World Government Army. Former Marshal of the Marine. However, the only way to participate in the meeting with an identity like Kong Kong can only be standing. The identities of those 5 people were undoubtedly revealed. It is the one who holds the apex of power in the current world, and at the same time represents the highest position of all celestial dragons in charge, 5 elders. And the sinner in their mouth. Nature is the theme of this meeting today. Bai Yi. Originally, they just thought it was a bottom-level bug that could be crushed to death. It won't be long before there will be news of being completely erased. Like all those who dared to defy the world government, they will be destroyed, become slaves, and then be buried by the times. Did not expect to order Marine to make 2 shots. They were all disappointed, so much so that now Marine's prestige has become a stepping stone to the sinner's reputation in the outside world, and even the face of the world government has plummeted. This kind of thing is the last thing the world government wants to see. It is also the most unacceptable. Marine's face is not important to them at all. The most important thing is absolutely not to lose face of the world government. Threat to the status and rule of the world government. Then, this is a meeting attended by the 5 elders collectively. Has manifested, facing the Grand Line, where the current situation has almost reached the point where the Marine government cannot handle it. This behemoth has stood in the world for 800 years. I am ready to take action again in person, and let the whole world feel how stupid it is to defy the world government for the first time in a long time. At the same time, an island, host, Bai Yi, current template, Yamamoto Genryūsai. Zanpakudo, Ryujin Jakka, unlocked. Shinigami ability, Kaido, unlocked. Physical technique, 1 bone, unlocked. Current template progress, 62.5. The clear and familiar sense of increasing strength poured into the body again. Bai Yi was thoughtful. The key to increasing the proficiency of template unlocking lies in combat. The stronger the enemy is, the faster the progress of unlocking the template will be. Before destroying the flying squirrel and others, the progress of unlocking the template was suddenly increased by 0.5 progress. After fighting broke out again now, the unlocking progress of the template has directly increased by 2%. Don't underestimate the 2% progress. The 2% of the power also depends on who it belongs to. If it is an ordinary person, 2% is of course insignificant, or even insignificant. But the template that Bai Yi possesses is the existence of the strongest Shinigami in the Shinigami Soul Society. Even with a strength of 2%, it is far from being an existence that the tens of millions of pirates can fight against in the first half of the Grand Line. One can imagine, if you follow Bai Yi's idea, you are right. Then those who want to hinder others may never dream of it. This will intensify the progress of the world government being buried. And now, the place where Bai Yi is located is an island near Alabasta on the Grand Line. The purpose of coming here is very simple. Bai Yi's white shirt has been completely destroyed due to the previous battle. Bai Yi didn't want to just appear in the sea like this. Ships dock in port, jumped onto the island. The sun shone from the sky and fell on Bai Yi's strong body that seemed to have no trace of the years. In this way, Bai Yi came to the town on this island. Perhaps the local news is blocked. Most of the island is dominated by the elderly and children. There are not many young people. Therefore, he didn't pay attention to Bai Yi, the special outsider. Seeing this scene, Bai Yi was not puzzled. He's only here briefly for what he needs, and he'll be leaving soon. Not to bring trouble here, not to be contaminated with trouble, is the best result. But just as Bai Yi used Bailey to buy what he needed, he was about to leave the island. There was a commotion in the town, and the residents who heard the sound quickly hid for fear of being discovered. This, usual, response. Bai Yi frowned slightly. Pirates. Look in the direction of the island's port. As far as the eye can see. Bai Yi's eyes sank. No, it's marine. And to make this island fear marines to such an extent that they are stronger than pirates. A look of indifference appeared in Bai Yi's eyes. Not long. In the port, on the deck of a broken warship. Bai Yi flipped through the memory of the other party, and looked at Colonel Marine who couldn't stop being incontinent in front of him. Without giving the other party a chance to beg for mercy, Bai Yi directly ended the other party's life. The people who watched Marine are basically rotten to the bone. From memory, Bai Yi already knew the purpose of the other party coming here. If Marine was just simply bullying, it would not be so impressive. But the bloated Colonel Marine in front of him is the local person in charge. He actually cooperated with the slave trader, privately arrested the civilians in charge of the towns under his banner, and then selected the boutiques from them, and then went to do business with the slave trader. In exchange for a lot of wealth. One can imagine. How rotten are these so-called justice? Subsequently, Bai Yi took care of the garbage. In the first half of the Grand Line, the crazy vibrations have not subsided and waves have started again. The 4 Emperors Whitebeard Pirates of New World was found missing in the Whitebeard Pirates camp. Has left that town. When Bai Yi heard the news, he thought about it. Looks like the Summit War is about to break out. As a traverser, Bai Yi, if I remember correctly, the Whitebeard pirates managed to sneak into the naval headquarters from the bottom of the sea by coating the ship. And when the forces of the New World discovered the movement of the Whitebeard pirates, the Whitebeard pirates are probably very close to Marineford. Maybe today, or tomorrow. All in all, the outbreak of the biggest war between pirates and marines, which is enough to determine the future fate of the world, is probably imminent. Summit War. On the sea near Alabasta. Currently wearing a black baggy shirt, Bai Yi stood under the blue sky and looked towards the direction of Naval Headquarters Marineford. For this war that is enough to change the next era. Bai Yi is naturally no stranger. But stop here for a while, he doesn't plan to go to Marineford to join the Summit War. The outbreak of Summit War. It's not a bad thing for him at the moment. Once the Summit War breaks out, it is difficult for the Marine government to become an obstacle to Bai Yi until the end of the Summit War. And as a time traveler, Bai Yi is very clear. As long as the world government behind the Marine government exists, the results of the Summit War were far from enough to have an impact on world government. This has been evident since the end of Summit War. Whether it is Marine or the Whitebeard pirates, they were all seriously injured in the Summit War. As the veteran 4 Emperors, Whitebeard has given his life to create the next new era. But the result, from beginning to end, standing behind the Marine government as a whole, holding the supreme power, a single thought in the Holy Land, Mariajoy can determine the death of countless lives, and the rule of the world government has not been affected at all. The world government is still firmly in control of the entire world and has never changed. All those who dared to defy the world government were further obliterated. Even the destructive weapons suspected of being displayed by Uranus just waved a name across the map, and then the world government destroyed a kingdom that dared to defy the world government with one blow. One can imagine. Summit War is a battle that attracts the attention of countless forces on the sea. In the eyes of the world government, which never showed up in the future. As long as it does not threaten the world government and celestial dragons' rule. The world government doesn't care about this level of commotion at all. Even if you are a pirate, massacring civilians wantonly, or a kingdom of endless civil strife, or you are trying to dominate the new world and challenge the four emperors. As long as it does not threaten the absolute power in the hands of the world government. The world government doesn't care what the world will become or what the fate of the people at the bottom will be. What the world government cares about is only the right to make rules and the celestial dragons. That's why, even if the system is awakened, Baiyi has no intention of participating in the next era, and does not want to get involved in trouble again. Baiyi who just wants to live in peace for the next few years. After witnessing the town I lived in for more than 30 years, it was destroyed by artillery fire by the world government just because of a suggestion made by an idiot. Baiyi will resolutely give up the new life and choose the second system option, Yamamoto Genryūsai template. Since this world is already rotten, God gave him another chance to take revenge with his own hands. Looking at the sea in front of him, Baiyi's eyes shone indifferently. Then turn the whole world upside down. No matter world government, or celestial dragons. It has already given Baiyi every reason to turn it into ashes. Grand line, deep sea, somewhere. This is a huge pirate ship that looks like a whale, and it is quietly sailing towards Naval Headquarters Marineford. At the same time, behind this ship, there are more than 40 pirates with different logos. If anyone from New World sees this scene, you will be stunned, speechless, almost suffocated. Because the ship, not another ship, it is one of the four emperors of New World known as the Emperor of the Sea. The Moby Dick of the Whitebeard pirates. And Moby Dick appeared here. One thing has been explained. Whitebeard, the man who is currently hailed as the strongest man in the world, the era belongs to Whitebeard. A man with the power to destroy the world. Whitebeard has come to the first half of the Grand Line. And it's not just Whitebeard. The densely packed pirate ships behind the Moby Dick already represents a terrible fact. It wasn't just the Whitebeard pirates that disappeared from New World. There are also 43 pirate groups led by the Whitebeard pirates. All the forces on the entire Whitebeard pirates territory have been dispatched. One can imagine the Whitebeard pirates' move. This is absolutely determined to set off an unprecedented war with naval headquarters. And at this time, Moby Dick aboard. The captains of the Whitebeard pirates were all in admiration. Father's attention is really kind. By the time those idiots find out, we'll be in naval headquarters. That's right. This time, we must let Marine know the consequences of daring to touch our family. Everyone was discussing excitedly. Whitebeard didn't say much, as he entered the first half of the Grand Line. The only thing left in Whitebeard's eyes at the moment is a faint solemnity. Because he is very clear in his heart. That Sengoku guy isn't going to sit still. Although it is now called the resourceful general. It can be used as an old opponent for many years. He is well aware of Sengoku's past as a marine admiral, and the name circulating on the sea is Sengoku of Buddha. Sengoku dared to announce Ace's execution to the outside world. That guy must have a solution. Only, I'm afraid Sengoku didn't even think of it himself. Whitebeard's eyes flashed the figure that came from the North Blue to the first half of the Grand Line. That guy Sengoku would have provoked a man who was also a big problem for Marine at this juncture. This was the opportunity, just thinking about it. Suddenly, one of Marco's intelligence pirates ran up with an unbelievable face. What happened? Seeing the person coming, Marco's face changed slightly. Could it be that their departure from the New World has been discovered? Marco hurriedly asked about the information his opponent had obtained. Since leaving New World, they have been using phone bugs to contact some pirates left in the outside world. The purpose is to get information as soon as possible. Find the best time to rescue Ace. With this thought, Marco asked the specific reason. But after receiving the news obtained from the outside world from the subordinates. Even though Marco was the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates' first team, Marco couldn't help but froze in place. How come? There was disbelief on his face. Marco muttered in place. Marco, what happened? Will you make such an expression? The other captains noticed Marco's face and asked subconsciously. A nearby sound brought Marco back to his senses. Marco just wanted to speak, but immediately shook his head. No, I have to tell my father about this first. With that said, Marco came to Whitebeard with a tone of shock and disbelief. Old Daddy, Naval Headquarters is in trouble. Naval Headquarters. Whitebeard couldn't help being taken aback when he saw Marco's reaction. What happened? Marco, tell me. The other captains were even more confused and asked hastily. Marco looked at the puzzled crowd and his father. Marco swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Then, he slowly uttered the news that made all the captains present turn pale. Marine dispatched 2 admirals to encircle and suppress that man, and it failed again. That man. Wait, the guy who can be surrounded by 2 Marine admirals. Could it be the one who dared to kill the celestial dragons in North Blue? How is it possible? Both admirals failed. The rest of the captains' eyes widened. Since they were currently at the bottom of the sea, they couldn't help being shocked when they just received the news. The stronger the strength, the higher the level of contact. So being a member of the 4 Emperor's pirates, they are very aware of the true combat power of Marine Admiral. Each Marine Admiral is a monster at sea comparable to a humanoid disaster. It was originally when I learned that Bai Yi was surrounded by 2 admirals. They basically thought that Bai Yi might escape. After all, those are the 2 admirals known as the highest combat power in Marine. But now, from the beginning of the extermination operation to the present, in a short period of time, news of failure came again. The other captains of the Whitebeard Pirates glanced at each other subconsciously. You can see the unbelievableness of their pupils. But don't wait for them to speak. Marco's next sentence seemed to make their breathing stagnate, and they even felt that a bomb had been placed in their ears, and their minds buzzed as they exploded. This is not the most important thing, Dad. Marco felt a glance from nearby. Marco's tone was shocked, and everyone's expression changed after a word. Although the intelligence is currently unable to confirm the authenticity, the 2 Marine admirals involved in the extermination operation. The current information shows that 1 person died. 1 person was seriously injured. Naval Headquarters' current combat power has been severely damaged. Boom. The voice fell. It was like a bomb exploded in the ears of the many captains surrounding Marco. Some people even subconsciously said, Marine Admiral was killed. Didn't that man escape Marine's siege? The nearby captain's voice trembled faintly, showing their shock at the moment. After all, possess a combat power comparable to Admiral, even if he defeats Marine Admiral head-on. And being able to kill Marine Admiral is not a concept at all. Marineford, Naval Headquarters. The siege led by Admiral also failed. Even Admiral died in this operation. Hey, Marshal Sengoku, this must be a joke, right? Naval Headquarters receives word that the Whitebeard Pirates have disappeared in New World. A grim meeting of all Marine executives was called immediately. Sengoku is the Marine Marshal. From the very beginning, he went straight to the point and told the news about the current complete blockade from the outside world. Not surprisingly, all Marine executives on the scene immediately changed their expressions. After all, this time, the impact of Marine Admiral's failure on the outside world is too great. Since the establishment of the Marine government, able to act as the presence of Marine Admiral, throughout the history of Marine, every Admiral, regardless of character, experience, past, needless to say, the only criterion for being able to become Admiral, the highest combat power of Marine. It is powerful, possess a combat power that is powerful enough to be overwhelming. It can be said, Marine Admiral is equivalent to representing every era, and Marine chooses the existence that can be called monster of monsters from countless monsters. But it is the highest combat power that is so powerful. It failed when 2 Marine Admirals were dispatched at the same time. Even Admiral personally dispatched and led the buster call, and there was an almost impossible result of 1 death and 1 injury. To know So far, Marine Admiral has a clear record of being killed in action. The only time. It was also the great battle where the Rocks pirates were destroyed in the Valley of the Gods 38 years ago. But compared to the Rocks pirates in the Battle of the Valley of the Gods, the enemy this time was to silence all the naval headquarters executives currently participating in the meeting. Even if no one wants to admit it, the current seriousness of the situation in naval headquarters has completely exceeded the control and planning of naval headquarters. And the most unacceptable to naval headquarters, the man who created the current situation. No doubt, just a retired veteran from West Blue who was not really taken seriously by the Marine government and world government at first. That's all, even the other party from beginning to end. All alone, it can be said, at this meeting, facing the situation that the first half of the Grand Line has been completely out of control, the senior executives of naval headquarters are almost helpless. But suddenly, a Marine ran out of the meeting room with a phone bug, speaking urgently. "Zahn, Marshal Sengoku, the world government is calling." World government heard the words. All the high-level executives in the conference room looked at it suddenly. Yes, with the bad situation that is now irreversible, I'm afraid the only power that can solve it is world government. Admiral Kong, bring it here. Marshal Kong. Hearing this name, the senior management of Marine in the conference room was once again collectively shocked. No, it can make Marshal Sengoku have a respectful tone, and also has the name of Kong. Apart from the former Marshal Marine, who else is Marshal Kong, who is now the Marshal of the world government's entire army? And, just before Sengoku took over the phone bug, the first words that rang out from the phone bug ignited hope in naval headquarters, who is currently at a loss. That is the summit war this time, the world government will not sit idly by. And this sentence is enough. As well as, between the failure of the Marine government to encircle and suppress Bai Yi twice, the Marine government does not need to intervene in this matter for the time being, and will do its best to ensure that the execution of the worst blood must be successful, and it is enough to deal with the Whitebeard pirates. As for Bai Yi, the world government has discussed and proposed, and has now made a final decision. That is, the world government is ready to take action in person. This time, it's not the CP0 special forces that only obey the private orders of the world's nobles. Instead, standing on the sea, the world government that has lasted for 800 years really took action in person. In order to pass the first half of the Grand Line, the current Marine government has been unable to deal with the situation. The world government has decided to let the world feel what it has not seen for a long time. What kind of serious consequences will be ushered in if you dare to provoke the world government? Quote. World government, do you want to do it yourself? Heard the words. The high-level executives in the naval headquarters meeting room all had shocked expressions on their faces. And with the world government's decision to come forward, the Marine government's senior officials have hoped to clean up the situation in the first half of the Grand Line that Marine's power alone has been unable to control. At the same time, there was an explosive news in the first half of the Grand Line. That was the execution day for the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates' 2nd Division, Fire Fist, Ace. It was supposed to be a week later. Due to Naval Headquarters' sudden announcement to the outside world to change the plan, the progress of the execution date will be more than doubled. In other words, there was not much time left for the Whitebeard Pirates, and now there is only less than half of it left. For a while, Naval Headquarters news as soon as it is released. There are countless forces in the first half of the entire Grand Line, and everyone in every town is starting to feel in danger. Obviously, nobody understands that Naval Headquarters seems to be in a worse situation at the moment. He even chose to take the initiative to anger the Whitebeard Pirates. What exactly is Naval Headquarters playing at the moment? Not to mention the first half of the Grand Line today. The Whitebeard Pirates, the 4 Emperors, 100 Beasts, Kaido, and the terrifying monsters that can smash 2 large-scale marine sieges alone, and even dispatch Admiral exist. With the arrival of these monsters one by one, they might really be destroyed. Chapter 41. The first half of the Grand Line. With the news of the early execution publicly announced by Naval Headquarters, countless forces couldn't figure out why Marine took the initiative to provoke the wrath of the strongest man in the world at this juncture. But for some people who really guessed that some unpredictable big events are about to happen. Aware of the unusual situation behind the Marine government this time, they were all shocked in their hearts. Naval headquarters today. Obviously, a lot of combat power has been lost, and the failure of the 2 encirclement campaigns has caused Marines' prestige and morale to plummet in all aspects. At this time, if you take the initiative to start a war with the Whitebeard pirates. The current situation in the first half of the Grand Line is visible to the naked eye, and it has completely exceeded the scope that naval headquarters can handle. But this is the time. The Marine government does not know how to retreat, but chooses to intensify the progress of the Summit War. Added a lot of fire to the first half of the Grand Line, which was already boiling hot and ignited when it touched the fire. All these signs of madness are beginning to indicate one thing, pointing in one direction. It can make the Marine government suddenly have a huge confidence. The move is almost crazy. Heedless of all the dreadful monsters that may be befalling the Grand Line at the same time. The answer can only be the world government that has been hiding behind the Marine government. Many years have passed, facing the first half of the Grand Line, which the Marine government has been unable to handle. World government is ready to come forward to solve it in person. Currently, this is the only possibility. For a while, a force and some pirates who know what this means. First thought, I just can't stop the crazy idea of wanting to escape from the first half of the current Grand Line. They already regretted coming to the first half of the Grand Line. Now I can go to the New World, no, even the world. After all, once the world government decides to come forward in person. I am afraid that everything that exists in the first half of the entire Grand Line will be reshuffled. Sanctuary Mariajoy, on the exclusive waterway of the world government. Now, under the blue sky, Marshal Kong, the troop mobilization order has been issued to all levels of the world government, and now we only need your order to move. A member of the world government arrives at the fairway port. He lowered his head and reported to an old man with a mountain character beard. The strong old man heard the words. He looked sharply at the waterway. I saw warships with the world government across logo gathering here. Moreover, each ship is different from the warships sent by the Marine government, and there is a figure exuding a powerful aura standing on it. Seeing this, Kong felt that Shindao was gathering strength to solve the so-called Summit War, which was more than wrong. But consider the sinners who made the Marine government lose twice in a row. Kong reached out and pulled out a Contact 5 Elders phone bug from his pocket. Put the phone bug in front of your mouth and say, in order to ensure that nothing goes wrong in this operation, I would like to solicit the transfer of another batch of PX project test products that are still in the research stage. Quote, PX test product, Kong, although those guys have successfully researched it, you have to think carefully, those test products are not honest pacifists who will completely obey orders. The 5 Elders' voice came from the phone bug. Once out of control on the battlefield, there is a possibility of ignoring orders and attacking regardless of friend or foe. That's right, Kong nodded with certainty, looking in the direction of naval headquarters, his tone cold. Difficulty in control is not a problem in my opinion. Since someone wants to make a big fuss, combat power is the real key, and those fools Shichibukai don't want to come, so it's time to take this opportunity, let them understand that even Shichibukai is not irreplaceable. There was undisguised anger in the voice. Obviously naval headquarters recruiting Shichibukai is not going well, Kong already knows. Now the front row of the Shichibukai war is useless, and the legal looting certificate issued by the world government is wasted. Since this is the case, Kong is ready to simply do it. The power of the XP project code-named Seraphim, which has been researched and is still in the experimental stage, is revealed to the world. As it happens, there is nothing like a big battle to test the chances that the Seraph has far more combat power than the naval headquarters pacifists. Kong hesitated for a moment with the phone bug in his hand. Not long after, the voice of 5 Elders came from the phone bug, and there was only one word. Can. The voice fell. On behalf of the world government, it has decided to collectively clear the entire first half of the Grand Line. And right now, Kong mustered such a large force, and without hesitating to apply for the second-generation pacifists who are currently in the experimental stage, the Seraphim is going to be exposed to the world in advance. No doubt, Kong intends to use the Summit War as a springboard this time to solve all the hidden dangers hidden in the first half of the Grand Line. With the summit war that is destined to attract worldwide attention, it is imminent. When everyone in the Grand Line is in danger and frantically wants to escape from this place of right and wrong that is about to explode. This moment, the first half of the Grand Line. Bai Yi, as a sinner, who is currently offered a reward of 4 billion Baileys by the world government, no, he should be an unprecedented, big villain. Watching the newspaper in his hand being burned to ashes by a ray of flames. There was no trace of fear on Bai Yi's face. There is also no sense of tension and urgency that the countless forces on the Grand Line are in danger today. Facing a situation that Marine could no longer handle, I finally decided to end it. It is really in line with the usual style of the world government. There was a look of disdain in Bai Yi's eyes. As a traverser, he could see at a glance the confidence behind naval headquarters daring to announce the execution in advance. One Marine Admiral dead, another Marine Admiral dying, plus the previously damaged pacifist fleet. If there is no world government behind the Marine government, the Marine government will never make such a seemingly stupid move. Behind such behavior, the participation of the world government is inevitable. But even knowing this, the behemoth world government is finally about to end in person. Bai Yi has no intention of retreating at all. Instead, Bai Yi has been waiting for a long time. After all, now that he is determined to completely subvert the world, bury the world government. Some enemies that should come will come sooner or later. Obstacles will not give up coming because of his warning. With this world government ready to show its fangs, Bai Yi is already predictable. These will not be the first to die at the knife of Ryujin Jakka, nor will they be the last before the world government dies entirely. Facing this already rotten world, this will just be. Bai Yi looked down at the Grand Line with indifferent eyes. He personally overturned the beginning of world government. Deep sea, somewhere, Moby Dick aboard. Play as the protagonist of one of the biggest factions on both sides of the Summit War. The Whitebeard pirates learned that Ace's execution date was brought forward. Not surprisingly, there was a commotion on the Whitebeard pirates. After all, if you want to quietly avoid all eyeliner, rescue Ace by sneaking into naval headquarters. The estimated time will take at least 4 days, or even 5 days. Only in this way can all the troops enter Marineford on the execution day without anyone noticing. But now the Marine government suddenly announced to the outside world that the execution date will be brought forward. This result leads to, are you kidding? Could it be that Marine has already discovered our plan, and that's why the execution date for Ace has been brought forward? In this way, most of Dad's original plans will be disrupted. Did Marine prepare for this from the beginning? Many captains talked about it. The front end of the Moby Dick. Whitebeard looked serious. Sengoku advanced the plan. Or, did Sengoku decide to abandon the plan because of all the big things that the man in North Blue did? Or, Whitebeard's face hardened. People from the world government are ready to join the Summit War. Thoughts flickered. Intuition tells Whitebeard Marine that there is more than that simplicity behind the sudden announcement of early execution this time. But the current situation, it has been impossible to give enough time to change the original plan. Because Marine will not give them that chance. Whitebeard is well aware of this, too. Therefore, I'm afraid this time, he can only try to gamble. Time begins to pass. Minutes and seconds passed. As the date of Summit War approaches, all forces are pursuing their own ideas. Think you will get the ultimate victory. Correspondingly, countless people around the world hope that that day will come later. However, fate is always like a joke. The more you fear something, the faster it will come. During the period, news spread that Marine Admiral Aokiji did not stop 4 Emperors Kaido. But there is no denying it, attracting the attention of countless people from all over the world. Compared to 4 Emperors Kaido alone, now located in naval headquarters, the Summit War destined to influence the direction of the times is really from the beginning. Or since Bai Yi killed the celestial dragons in North Blue, before his fame shocked the entire world. An unprecedented event that countless people pay attention to. And at this moment, when time moves, it was almost noon. The outside world began to be turbulent. No doubt. As the Marine government chose to make the entire execution process public by projecting phone bugs. When those terrifying military formations that were not prepared for simple execution were revealed to the world. Already revealed. Even if this summit war has not started yet, it has already made countless hearts palpitate several weeks in advance. Already destined to come. For this summit war, completely bury the Whitebeard pirates in Marineford. The marine government can be said to have taken out almost all of its wealth. A door full of gunfire in front of the U-shaped port. Nearly 100,000 elite marines. Dozens of marine vice-admirals fought. As well as, headed by Marine Marshal, the resourceful General, Sengoku, Marine legendary hero Garp, Crane of, Great Staff Officer, Marine Admiral, Aokiji. Usually the outside world can see or not see the existence of marine that can only be heard in legends. All revealed to the world without a doubt. At the same time, the most eye-catching, there is nothing more than a group of indifferent weapons with eyes that look like the Shichibukai of the boyhood but have PX numbers on their bodies. 7. Shichibukai. Wrong. Whether it's age or the indifferent temperament on his body. They can't be connected with living people. What exactly exists? For a while, the whole world caused countless shocks and doubts. At the same time, this confusion also caused Shichibukai, who did not participate in the summit war, to change his face suddenly. 9. Snake Island. Snake, what are those things? Witnessing the real-time broadcast of Summit War, Grandma Z had an unbelievable expression on her face and couldn't help but look back. Seeing that Hancock himself was here, Grandma J breathed a sigh of relief. Available immediately. Doubt crept into her mind. What are those things that look so similar to the Shichibukai's teenage years? Empress Hancock frowned, staring at the seraphim above. Her face changed slightly. New World, Kingdom of de Res Rosa. D. Dover. Those things, could it be? It is different from not knowing what the seraphim is. Their family has first-hand news. But that kind of stuff. I didn't expect world government to actually succeed in research. Doflamingo spoke now. What? World government? Torebel looked shocked. Doflamingo nodded. Yes, a powerful clone that can replace Shichibukai, the second-generation pacifist. I heard that it was still in the experimental stage, but I didn't expect the world government to come up with such a terrible weapon. In this way, the world government seems to be determined to clean up the entire Grand Line. Hiss. Torebel gasped. ... At the same time. Shaking all over the world. Seraphim. It turns out that the research has been successful. No wonder the world government was able to fill up the battle force in the first place before cancelling all Shichibukai. Summit War live-streamed by the Marine government. Bai Yi was thoughtful. Summit War is not something I need to focus on, though. Reach out on the dark purple hilt of Ryujin Jakka. Bai Yi raised his head and turned to look at the seemingly calm sea ahead. Actually, Bai Yi passes through Reiatsu, who is terrified in the body. As far as the eye can see, it was as if in the dark night, countless dancing lights and flames were waiting ahead. Enemy, no doubt. It's not Marine who is in Marineford to deal with the Whitebeard pirates in full force. Instead, stand behind the Marine government, standing in this world's 800-year-old world government. Face this scene. Bai Yi was not surprised. The enemies that should come will come sooner or later. If the outside world knows, his lineup here is comparable to, no, maybe even above Summit War. I really don't know how the outside world will react. And, in a very distant place, there are two more powerful auras, which are strong enough to surpass the existence of Marine Admiral. One is approaching rapidly, the other one is in the wait-and-see stage. Kaido. He raised his head and noticed that the one that was approaching rapidly came from the direction of the sky. Bai Yi suddenly thought of the four emperors Kaido, who was making a fuss in the first half of the Grand Line these days. Originally, Bai Yi didn't know why Kaido came to the first half of the Grand Line. Take the character of Kaido. This is the right time to take the opportunity to annex the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. It seems now, it turned out to be because of his relationship. But, Bai Yi's eyes remain indifferent. The front is the careful preparation of the world government. Not to mention the incoming four emperors Kaido. Bai Yi will not give up revenge and subvert the world government just because of who is in front of him. Then, it seems that as long as you drive through the sea in front, you can go directly to the Sabayati Islands, where the world government is located. Bai Yi was alone. No fear, they don't need to wait. He will take the initiative to go. And together with the world government, Bai Yi will bury it together. For a while, Naval Headquarters Marineford, together with Bai Yi here. Two unprecedented wars of terror that are destined to change the era are coming. Now, Summit War touched the hearts of countless people on the Grand Line. And on the necessary sea area to go to the Sabayati Bottom Islands. A pirate ship appeared bleakly from the path of the route. Captain, run. The people at Naval Headquarters are crazy. Such a lineup. Once it collides with the Whitebeard pirates, Marine is planning to destroy the entire first half of the Grand Line, right? Yeah, if it gets involved, we'll be doomed. The pirates on the pirate ship talked a lot, showing the fear that everyone in the Grand Line is in danger today. However, just when they thought they were taking the trail, as long as they stayed away from the Grand Line, they would not be affected by this incident. Suddenly, the tall pirate who was talking suddenly stopped in place. He showed a dumbfounded and shocked expression of fear. Ferret, what happened? What's going on in front? The pirates who were discussing behind were puzzled. The tall pirate in front of him didn't come back to his senses for a while, and then he said with a trembling voice. In front, there is someone. Someone. When the companion heard this, disdain appeared on his face. What's wrong with someone? We are pirates. All fools who dare to stop us from leaving the Grand Line, get ready to be killed. Withdrawing his weapon, a ferocious pirate stepped forward. It can be next second. When I saw the small boat under the blue sky in the sea ahead. See clearly the figure of the man standing alone above. The fierce pirate suddenly froze in place. Then he saw something frightening, and the weapon in his hand fell to the ground unknowingly. Cold sweat broke out almost immediately on his forehead, and he said in a trembling voice. Alone, dare to be on the Grand Line. No, it can't be wrong. Yes, it must be the monster that caused Marine to suffer a lot. Cheat, lie, how did that monster appear here? The fierce pirates couldn't believe their bad luck. And such a monster, when the focus of the world is now focused on the Summit War. What is the other party trying to do here? Suddenly, the dire pirates thought of the Sabayati Bottom Islands they were trying to escape from. And above the Sabayati Islands. Gurgling, no way, single quote. A thought flashed through that made his collective hair stand on end. Then he looked at the lonely figure in the sea ahead. The pirate couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. There was an indescribable tremor in his eyes. Cried out aloud. That monster is alone like this, planning to attack the world government. Is he crazy? The bottom of my heart became more and more convinced of this terrifying idea. Almost without thinking, the pirate roared with all his strength. Quick, go back. No, you can run to other places. That monster is definitely not something we can provoke. The sound fell, and the rest of the pirates on the pirate ship who found Bai Yi came back to their senses. Their first thought, just stay away immediately. Yes, he didn't have any intention of fighting Bai Yi. After all, what a joke. Go and fight a monster that dares to hit the attention of the world government. Isn't that disgusting that I didn't live long enough? Do you know that even Marine Admiral didn't get any bargains? The idea of this group of pirates is almost crazy. In their eyes, meeting Bai Yi, the current crisis is simply more terrifying than going to Summit War in person. However, just the second they were about to turn the bow of the ship, look to the sea area behind. All the pirates collectively froze in place. Breathing is almost suffocating. Scalp burst, as far as the eye can see. They copied the trail behind the sea area. I don't know when. In this blue sky, that is a warship with world government appearing on the sea. Line up. Block the entire sea area that can go to the Sabayati Bottom Islands. Then he subconsciously looked at the lone monster figure in the sea ahead. All the pirates on this ship couldn't help but tremble with uncontrollable fear. It was like being drained of strength and squatting on the ground. Desperate, use up, ruined, they seem really strayed into a war scarier than the Summit War. ... And at this moment, seagulls skim below the blue sky. The world government forces are headed on the deck of the warship. Marshal Kong, that sinner is really bold. He didn't change his route to Mariajoy at all, and just appeared before our eyes. A world government report soldier looked in disbelief at the figure that gradually became clear in the distance in the sea. Although he knew that Bai Yi had no intention of hiding his whereabouts at all. But when you witness it with your own eyes, it is not at the same level as the shock you feel from hearing the rumors. At this time, the phone bug on Kong Kong's hand suddenly rang. Marshal Sora, there seems to be a pirate in front of us who strayed into our encirclement net. May I ask if you want to destroy it immediately? The identity of the other party has been found out. It is led by the pirate who offered a reward of 67 million. He once committed the crime of destroying more than 2 towns on the Grand Line. Thieves, pirates, he heard the words of Kong, who embraced his muscular arms and exuded a powerful aura. Raising his head, he happened to see the tiny trembling pirate ship caught in the middle. Seeing this, Kong Kong showed disdain in his eyes. Road, don't worry about it. There is only one priority to exterminate. As for those ants, they are just the scabies of the world government. Let the Marines exterminate them in the future. Talking, Kong Kong's indifferent tone revealed that he didn't care about the bounty offered by those pirates at all. It doesn't matter what crimes those pirates committed. As the Generalissimo of the world government army. In Kong Kongian, as long as this kind of pirate does not threaten the status of the world government. Don't bother at all. Let your marine handle it. Now the world government has come up with such a large-scale military force. It's not to deal with those mere ants. World government came forward in person. But make sure to wipe out all evil forces who dare to defy the world government. Yes, Marshal Kong Kong. The world government staff responsible for the observation over the phone bug nodded. Kong Kong asked again, by the way, what's the current situation at naval headquarters? The world government staff on the phone bug was obviously taken aback. After a moment he replied, at present, Marineford is still 15 minutes away from the execution time. Naval headquarters has already received the prisoners we escorted yesterday and sent seraphs to support them. As long as the Whitebeard pirates appear, they will definitely make them come and go. Quote, it is good. Hearing this, Kong Kong nodded. Then look forward. Muttered, 15 minutes is enough time. After the sinners are wiped out, all the troops here can rush to naval headquarters in less than half an hour. At that time, the whole world will know what it will be like to disobey the world government. This is the idea. Kong Kong's eyes flickered sharply. Seeing the sea in the distance, Bai Yi dared to sail into the encirclement net by himself. Kong's eyes were indifferent, and he said, arrogant guy, your last time is over. Whether it's you, Whitebeard, or Kaido, who doesn't know what to do. All will be buried here. Since the world wants to know the consequences of offending the world government, let's start with a sinner like you. Kong Kong put another phone bug to inform the whole army on his lips. Afterwards, Kong Kong announced without hesitation the order to start the Operation Demon Slaying. Operation Demon Slaughter. This is the code name world government named the plan to destroy Bai Yi. As the name suggests, when Kong Kong used the golden phone bug to issue orders to all levels of world government. Once this action starts, it will be like the Buster Call in the hands of Marine, which frightened the outside world. All warships will carry out indiscriminate and destructive attacks on the area where the signal is sent at the same time. Regardless of whether the above things are innocent, whether they are only civilians, or hostages kidnapped by pirates, etc. Once the action starts, the Buster Call will be used to completely wipe out all things and people in the target area that threatens the rule of the world government with absolute, strong measures. Until the target is completely dead or the area is completely razed to the ground. And at this very moment, with the Operation Demon Slaughter officially started. From Bai Yi's point of view, this is above the sea in the distance. The world government warships lined up in a row gradually began to appear. At the same time, the front, left, and right fully reveal the whole picture of this devil-slaying operation in the form of 3 bread clips. Just warships, the world government dispatched hundreds of them. One can imagine, the world government is fully prepared to bury him here this time. Believe, regardless of any faction on the Grand Line. Seeing this scene of battle was enough to shudder. Unknown, I must have thought that the determination of the world government was to start a collective war against the four emperors' pirate groups at the same time. However, I'm afraid no one would have imagined that this massive Operation Demon Slaughter was prepared for just one person. And at this moment, the atmosphere is like a suffocating sea of quagmire. It's over. We're doomed, we're going to die here. Caught in the middle of the trembling pirate ship. Those pirates saw the terrifying formation of the world government. The scalp almost exploded. There was a wild hope in their hearts that Bai Yi would back off and give them the space to escape. As the weakest side that has strayed into the center of this battlefield. Whether it's the man in front who shakes the grand line alone. It was still the terrifying lineup of troops from the world government behind him. None of them dared to take the initiative to provoke any side. Therefore, we can only pin our hopes on when Bai Yi sees the troops deployed by the world government. We'll choose to retreat. However, Bai Yi's next move. But it shattered every hope of the pirates on the pirate ship. I saw that Bai Yi discovered that the world government's arrangement was comparable to, no, it was no less terrifying than the Summit War. Bai Yi's options are, not only did not retreat. Instead, he intends to face the terrifying lineup of the world government alone. Now, a sinner like me, Bai Yi stepped on the boat. There was no trace of fear on his face. Looking directly at the forefront of the warship dispatched by the world government this time, the figure exuding the most powerful aura. There was a look of disdain in Bai Yi's eyes. Pirates can burn, kill, and loot unscrupulously. Marines can use their powers to collect bribes at will, and even capture civilians under their banners privately and turn them into slaves to trade in exchange for wealth. Bai Yi slowly talked about what he saw and heard on the Grand Line. In the end, he said in a cold tone, "What is the real definition of a sinner? What is the world government that can turn a blind eye to all this?" Bai Yi's voice is not too loud, but under the power of Reiatsu. It can be heard even in the Sabayati Bottom Islands. At the end of the day, whether it's the world government hiding behind Marine, or you who are now appearing in front of me, they are nothing more than rubbish with hypocrisy brought to the extreme, that's all. Now, you, Kong Kong's face suddenly sank. Sudden, you bloody fool. How dare you slander the world government? Just as Bai Yi's voice fell, on a warship not far from Kong Kong. This is the first violent sound. Then it was a swing of a long knife over 10 meters. The air is torn. From the weapons and movement, it was obvious that the person who came was not an ordinary person at all. It's the famous Titan family in this world. I saw that the eyes of the man of the Titan tribe were full of enthusiasm for the world government. The muscles in both arms are tense, and the blue veins are bursting. Next second, the gun of Al-Buff. Weo. Quote. Suddenly, a beam of light capable of penetrating directly tore the sea apart. It set off countless water splashes and hit Bai Yi directly. Dead. The trembling pirate almost collapsed. But suddenly it was discovered that the attack was from Bai Yi. They were relieved. However, it was that seemingly powerful attack. Following the Kong Air Force ship, the Titans made an unbelievable sound. I saw Bai Yi facing the attack. Just simply raised a hand. Subsequently, it turned out to be that powerful slash, in his hand. Then, Bai Yi exerts strength with 5 fingers. Slash wave is instantly smashed. Impossible. As soon as the Titan man spoke, he frantically wanted to see exactly how Bai Yi did it. It can be next second. Boom, in the eyes of this Titan man. In the distance, Bai Yi's eyelids obviously didn't move. But the moment they met Bai Yi's eyes, suddenly, the entire daytime sky suddenly turned black. No, not right. It was he who felt in himself, smaller. The figure of Bai Yi falling in his eyes from a distance is constantly rising, like a peak. At the same time, a sense of terror and oppression that one dare not look directly at, suffocating, is constantly emanating. Obviously in the distance it was a small bug that could only look up at him. But he felt the terrifying pressure of falling into the deep sea. And if those terrible pressures come together, die. The Titan man took a few steps back abruptly, and when he was unsteady, he squatted directly on the ground. What happened? The Titan man looked at Bai Yi in the distance in disbelief. However, those present ignored him. Or, no one found out exactly what method Bai Yi used. Instead, go through this. The world government staff who participated in the demon slaughter operation couldn't help feeling extremely afraid of Bai Yi. And at this time, Bai Yi naturally has no interest in paying attention to this kind of waste that even a trace of Reiatsu can't bear. He raised his head, facing the battle of Operation Demon Slaughter, initiated by the world government. Bai Yi continued the topic just now and said slowly. Now, since we are ready to put people to death, we should all be ready to die here. The cold voice fell. Boom. Release all the Reiatsu hidden in Bai Yi's body. A split second, compared to the Reiatsu that the tall Titan man felt just now. That's more than 10 times as much. No, it should be 100 times the pressure. The incomparable, overwhelming, atmosphere instantly descended on the Sea of Grand Line. At the same time, the almost materialistic Reiatsu no longer seems to be blazing on Bai Yi this time. Instead, with Bai Yi as the center, it is like an unprecedented special, conquerors. Atmospheric pressure is abruptly changed by the terrifying Reiatsu. And those who cannot bear this Reiatsu, they were all instantly pressed to the ground and could not move. Boom, boom, the seemingly endless Reiatsu is pouring out in all directions. The robe on Bai Yi's body was blown by Reiatsu. The nearby space is visibly distorted by the naked eye. The sky is starting to change color. The sea couldn't contain the ripples that spread outwards, turning into giant tumbling waves. This moment, facing Bai Yi who poured Reiatsu seemingly endlessly in front of him. Plop, plop, plop. What happened? The body seems to be suppressed by the mountain, and it is no longer under control. Okay, it's so uncomfortable. I can't breathe anymore. What exactly is going on? 1 warship, 2 warships, 3 warships. From the beginning, only the man of the Titan tribe felt the pressure, and then a group of people knelt or lay on the ground uncontrollably, unable to move their bodies. Feel the pressure from the sea in the distance. Someone wants to look up and know what's going on. But, the pressure from the seemingly endless Reiatsu continues. And keeps rising. Then, swish, visible to the naked eye. Kneeling on the deck and trying to stand up, or people who forcefully tried to raise their heads, there was a bang. It turned into a group lying on the deck in the form of big. The blue veins on the forehead are faintly exposed. An ugly complexion that is swollen, red and congested. All of them show the tremendous pressure they are under all the time. At the same time, it is precisely because of this that the body and the deck are firmly stuck together at this moment. Some people have already started to faint in pieces, spitting out blood. Just suddenly realized, it's not just people who are affected. Even the warship beneath them began to tremble violently. There was a steel twisting sound that sounded like a scream. Are you kidding me? Single quote. What is this? Such a terrifying, conquerors, hockey. Is it really the power that humans should have? Countless people trembled. There is at least 300 meters of sea distance between them and that monster. This kind of thing. How to make them accept it? However, no matter how they react. Can't believe what I'm seeing. But today's reality, it was the man in the distance who should have been in a desperate situation. Alone, face the sheer force of this world government call. Haven't shot at them yet. Only with Reiatsu released outward. So let all the world government forces involved in this action to wipe out Bai Yi. This moment, combat strength over at least 9 levels will be useless in front of Bai Yi. And at this moment, witnessing the horror of unleashing Reiatsu before his eyes, enough to shake the entire Grand Line. There was no surprise in Bai Yi's eyes. Because Bai Yi is very clear. Reiatsu is a form that represents the Shinigami's own power. Just like the Hokage world chakra in his previous life memory. The stronger the Shinigami's own power, the stronger the oppression that Reiatsu unleashes. As for the template he owns, even if only less than 70% of it has been unlocked so far. Don't forget, look out for the entire Shinigami world. The reason why Yamamoto Genryūsai has been able to serve as the captain of the 13th Division of Guti for thousands of years. There is no other reason. Throughout the history of Soul Society development, Shinigami who can be stronger than Yamamoto Genryūsai. It's a rare event in 1,000 years. At the same time, rumbling, with Bai Yi's seemingly endless Reiatsu release. Grand Line, Sabayati Bottom Islands, and even Naval Headquarters. Marineford, they are all beginning to be partially affected. Yes, is the Whitebeard pirates coming? Faintly see the churning sea beyond Naval Headquarters in the distance. Marineford, whose nerves were tense, was shocked suddenly. Marshal Sengoku, that's Aokiji, guarding the execution platform, stood up abruptly, staring at the distant sea beyond Naval Headquarters. Then Aokiji subconsciously looked at Sengoku. I saw the crane vice admiral beside Sengoku had opened his eyes, his face was serious, and he asked Sengoku. Sengoku, do you feel the breath coming from over there? Sengoku didn't say much, but his face showed seriousness. Looking at the apparently empty sea beyond Marineford. Clearly aware that something had begun, Sengoku said slowly. Looks like another war has begun. Finished. Sengoku doesn't have the mind to explain it to everyone. Instead, he took out the loudspeaker bug and yelled loudly to keep all Marines on alert. No matter what happens outside, it doesn't matter. Naval headquarters here now to prevent the Whitebeard pirates from raiding. This is Marineford's top priority right now. At the same time, the deep ocean below the naval headquarters harbor. A large pirate ship in the shape of a whale is quickly arriving here. Suddenly, all the pirates above gave a sudden meal. Marco looked up and saw naval headquarters above, facing Whitebeard. He suddenly couldn't help asking a question just like Crane asked Sengoku. Dad, did you feel it? Was that? Although Marco did not explain it, it may be enough to move the captain of the first team of the 4 Emperor's pirates. One can imagine how powerful the owner of that breath is. At this moment, on the deck of the Moby Dick. Hearing this, Whitebeard looked up at the direction of the sea completely opposite to Marineford for a long time. Whitebeard withdrew his gaze, then nodded slowly and exclaimed. It's really surprising. The breath alone is so powerful. It really makes people really want to see what kind of man he is. Old Dad felt it too. When Captain Fan, who was stagnant in place, heard this, shock appeared on their faces. Does the owner of that aura just now think that even the old man is very powerful? Is that the backhand that Marine prepared? Whitebeard looked at the sons whose hands Genin couldn't help but speak. Whitebeard shook his head. La, don't worry, that breath has nothing to do with Marine. The experienced Whitebeard immediately realized the aura just now, which was very far away from them. So Whitebeard, half joking to reassure his sons, said while gazing up at naval headquarters above. After all, if the owner of the aura you felt just now is on Marine's side, I'm afraid this war has been lost from the very beginning. The voice fell, visible to the naked eye. The captains under Whitebeard immediately breathed a sigh of relief. But when they noticed the second half of the old man's sentence, they couldn't calm down for a long time. Although the old man was obviously joking. But from the side, it also showed how terrifying the strength of the owner of the aura that could reach the bottom of the sea just now. To be able to make Dad, who is the strongest man in the world, recognize him so much. Okay, now it's our turn to create an accident for Marine. Whitebeard secretly recorded the breath in his heart. Then Whitebeard looked up to naval headquarters. When Marco heard this, he couldn't help being moved and said. Now, Dad, even if the rest of the people rush here at full speed. Due to the sudden change of execution time. Therefore, driving at full speed, only one of them, the pirate group, has arrived. It will take at least another hour for the other 43 pirates to arrive. No, it's a risk. Although Sengoku speeded up the execution in advance, don't forget that the current Marine power is much weaker than before. Now is a very good time. Let Marine know the price of daring to attack this old man's son. The voice fell. Whitebeard focused all his attention on naval headquarters above. And the pirates and captains under Whitebeard heard the news. Immediately each took out their weapons. Immediately. Following Whitebeard's order to float up. Immediately. Clatter. A large number of water splashes suddenly appeared in the inner port surrounded by layers of naval headquarters Marineford. And this sudden change, time to stop, affects the hearts of countless Marines throughout Marineford. Sengoku's expression changed even more. Looking at the large number of muzzles prepared on the outside, it is impossible to aim at the inside, falling into a useless state. Sengoku's expression changed, and he said in disbelief. Whitebeard, that guy, did he sneak in from the bottom of the sea? Thoughts arise. Next second, bang, a whale-like pirate ship coated with film suddenly appeared in front of countless people who were paying attention to Summit War. It's Whitebeard. Come. Marineford's nervous Marine suddenly caused a commotion. Same moment, this change also ignited the outside world. Sengoku, long time no see, gulala. Tall, standing on the deck in front of Moby Dick, facing the sunlight falling from the sky, The person who came was holding a knife in his hand, his beard curved upwards like a crescent moon, and he exuded a powerful aura that made the world not angry. No doubt, this is the world's strongest man whose current title is enough to represent an era. Whitebeard. For a while, naval headquarters. The outside world caused a crazy shock. Same, just when the atmosphere in naval headquarters is tense. Whitebeard spoke to Sengoku next. It made the whole world stunned, and then was shocked. Gu la la la, Sengoku, this formation seems to welcome the arrival of the old man, but why don't you see the other two Marine Admirals? Where are they? The tone is pretending to be puzzled. The voice fell. Countless people outside were taken aback for a moment, even Marine who participated in the summit war. Why did Whitebeard ask this suddenly? Shouldn't the focus be on the son who is going to be executed first? However, Sengoku, who was very clear about Whitebeard's plan, suddenly changed his expression. No, not good. He planned to use his currently blocked news to hit Marine's morale right from the start. Where did this fool get the information from? Sengoku's expression was uncertain. Whitebeard's next words shocked the whole world. Gu la la la, it can't be because even Marine Admiral couldn't survive the operation that took part in the extermination of that man. Whitebeard's voice was not too loud, it was very calm. But don't forget, because this is the public execution of the Marine government to the world. So when Sengoku reacted and was about to order someone to cut off the voice call bug. Already, late, then, boom, in this summit war that countless people in the world are currently paying attention to. The whole world at this moment. It was only from Whitebeard that he learned of a shocking event that could shake the world. Ocean, Marine Admiral, dead. Did Marine Admiral die in an operation to wipe out that man? Wait, isn't it the same as the news announced by the Marine government? Is it just that Marine's simple extermination operation has failed? And Whitebeard's, that man. Suddenly, the figure of the man on the reward order flashed through the minds of countless people from all over the world, and they couldn't help but tremble in their hearts. And at this very moment, now in another battle, I'm afraid Bai Yi didn't imagine it either. How could I appear in Summit War in such a unique way? Hi, Marine Admiral is dead. Real or fake? No way. Those admirals who existed like monsters died in Marine's second extermination of that man. Outside, countless people all over the world suddenly got up. Deadeye on Naval Headquarters live projected phone bug these days. Crazy to find out the truth of what Whitebeard revealed. And the result of some searching. The entire Naval Headquarters is currently on the terror lineup assembled against the Whitebeard pirates. As Whitebeard said, both Akainu and Kizaru did not appear. Add to that Sengoku's unbearably ugly face and anger at Whitebeard. Immediately, realized Whitebeard was right. Someone didn't stand still and squatted on the spot. Someone's body can't stop shaking in place just like the body and mind. Others swallowed their saliva, unable to believe what they heard from Summit War Whitebeard. Because, real, it is true, two Marine Admiral personally led the operation. Admiral actually died in the second operation to suppress that man. For a while, vibration all over the world. Sabayati Bottom Islands. Is that news true? Rip off the bar outside. Shaki stopped smoking in place, ignoring the entire Sabayati Bottom archipelago that is in shock not far away. After a long time, she subconsciously looked at the silver-haired old man beside her. Rayleigh's eyes flickered with disbelief behind his glasses. Watch Whitebeard and Sengoku face off above. Opened his mouth and said, I'm afraid this matter is true. In this way, Marine's recent actions and the early execution all make sense. While drinking and talking, the fluctuation in Rayleigh's eyes showed that he was not at peace at the moment. After all, Rayleigh has fought Marine Admiral several times in the past. Not the Marine Admiral of the current era though. But no one knows better than him. The reason why a Marine Admiral can become an Admiral is that any Marine Admiral needs to possess inhuman and powerful monster strength. Even if they fight continuously for days and nights, there will be no problem. It is conceivable that in the face of such a monster that is almost beyond the scope of human, it is very difficult to defeat it, and how impossible it is to kill the other party. Not to mention, it doesn't matter whether the dead Admiral is Akainu or Kizaru. Today's two people, no matter their strength or age, are at the peak stage of this era. And even if you were invincible, Marine Admiral was determined to escape, and it was difficult to do anything effective against them. That's how it exists. It didn't even occur to Rayleigh. Since the destruction of the Rocks pirates in the Valley of the Gods 38 years ago. In this world, there is another record of Marine Admiral's death. And it's different from the kind of melee between the two forces. This is based on the premise of being alone, against two Marine Admirals. To know, killed and able to defeat Marine Admiral. But it's not a concept at all. There's not even a comparison between the two. Amazon Lily, 9 Snake Island. Now, a tall figure suddenly got up from the palace room. Hancock's slowly narrowing pupils showed her inner restlessness. Marine Admiral, dead, in the face of such a big event. The Marine government chose to hide it from the outside world. Think of the news you saw earlier. Hancock's hands clenched slowly. Maybe, that would not be delusional. Snake Princess, wake up. Aside, Grandma Z noticed the thought flickering in Hancock's eyes. She was experienced enough to see at a glance that Hancock had changed his mind again. So she did not hesitate to bring Hancock back to reality. The background of world government is not as simple as you imagined, otherwise those guys who think they are superior will not always hold the power to control the world firmly. Even at that level, isn't it enough? Hancock frowned and couldn't help but speak. Quote. That's right. Hearing this, Grandma Z nodded without doubt. As the oldest person in the entire 9 Snake Island, he is also a person who has gone through an earlier era before Rocks. The mother-in-law is very clear about how powerful the background of the world government is. Although the last time the world government truly showed its power to the world was the Valley of the Gods 38 years ago. But that was just one shot. At that time, the Grand Line had become the recognized overlord of the sea, gathering almost all the monsters of that era, which was equivalent to the Rocks pirates, who were almost uncrowned kings. After being discovered by the world government, Rocks actually wanted to attack the Valley of Gods. The result can be imagined. In just one day, the Rocks pirates were destroyed in the Valley of the Gods. Completely become history buried today. It is conceivable that once the world government decides to act, how powerful the background will be. The Rocks pirates, which were in full swing back then, couldn't do it. Not to mention, alone, they actually want to subvert that giant world government. This kind of thing, even if the 4 emperors of New World join hands, it may be difficult to do. Suddenly, the mother-in-law noticed that the aftermath of a powerful aura was spreading towards 9 Snake Island. The mother-in-law's face changed slightly. She jumped to the window, subconsciously released her knowledge. Could it be that some pirates want to take advantage of the chaos to attack Snake Island? The calm belt waters off Hydra Island were found to be deserted. The mother-in-law first breathed a sigh of relief. Can be followed, thinking of the powerful aura that made her involuntarily enter a state of alert just now. If it weren't for the pirates who came to take advantage of the chaos and attempted to attack 9 Snake Island, or broke into calm belt by mistake. Doesn't that mean that the powerful aura I just felt came from the outside world? Why mother-in-law's heart sank. Through the calm belt. In such a strong oppression. Could it be that Whitebeard monster? Has it started a war with Marine? Subconsciously look at the Summit War projection screen. Note the situation above. The mother-in-law's complexion couldn't help but change. No, not Whitebeard, but besides that Whitebeard monster, what could it be? Wait. The mother-in-law suddenly subconsciously thought of the figure of the man that flashed in her mind just now. If it is that dangerous man who is alone, trying to subvert the world government. Maybe, but what force is that man fighting against now? He was able to pass his powerful aura through the calm belt to 9 Snake Island. Suddenly noticed the summit war that the whole world is now focusing on. The mother-in-law's face suddenly showed a dignified look. She thought of a possibility. World government. Maybe the world government has already started the extermination operation against that dangerous man while the whole world's eyes are attracted by the summit war. The mother-in-law looked at the deserted sea in the distance. The beating heart couldn't help but lift up, although she strongly refuted Hancock's abandonment of unrealistic fantasies. But it cannot be denied. When it is realized that there may have been a war between the world government and Bai Yi. In my mother-in-law's heart, I hope that the man from North Blue wins. Because this world has been around for too long, no one dares to challenge the world government anymore. And whether it is standing on the stand of Hancock or Hydra Island. What she wanted, of course, was to see that giant collapse. At the same time, all around the world, Sabayati Bottom Islands, Amazon Lily, Grand Line, all over the world, New World. Countless people were shocked by the news that Marine Admiral died in the Summit War. The other side, the screen returns to Bai Yi. Now, rumbling, due to the seemingly endless Reiatsu release, forcibly turning this sea into Bai Yi's domain here. Be prepared to die here. Quote. So that's what it meant. There was a steel-twisting warship that sounded like a scream. Facing the situation that the huge force prepared by the world government was suppressed by one person. Kong was empty as the generalissimo of the world government army, and his expression couldn't help but move. But facing Bai Yi directly, Kong didn't back down in the slightest, but the aura on his body began to rise gradually, and he said in a cold tone, "The world government has given priority to solving sinners like you, and now it seems that it is the most correct choice. We must not allow monsters like you to continue to threaten the world government and live." With that said, Kong took out the phone bug and notified the people hidden in this operation to carry out the first phase of the Operation Demon Slaughter extermination plan. First of all, it is to test the powerful combat power of Seraphim. I saw that following Kong's order, several powerful auras suddenly appeared on the various warships. Without exception, these powerful weapons have no humanity on their faces, only the coldness of being ready to kill at any time. See these seraphs. Kong faced Bai Yi again, and said coldly, "Whether it's you, or Kaido, or Whitebeard, those guys will all disappear after you die. Now, let me show you why the world government is the controller of all power in this world." The voice fell. Immediately, the seraphim, who didn't know what death was at all, attacked Bai Yi one after another. Is it not allowed to continue to bring threats to the world government? Bai Yi was not nervous at all, but said calmly and slowly, "Has your hypocrisy been completely exposed now? Really, regardless of the marine government, which is the loyal dog of the world government, he is still the generalissimo of the world government army that he is facing directly now. They are all a group of extremely hypocritical guys. But fortunately, looking at the second-generation pacifist, Seraphim, who rushed forward collectively, and Kong who obviously had a backup method behind him, there was a hint of coldness in Bai Yi's indifferent eyes. These are all for maintaining the rule of the world government from beginning to end, and they are extremely hypocritical garbage. Today will be the party destined to be buried here." Boom. Now, all the Seraphim received an attack command. Straight away began to attack Bai Yi. One is the first to jump into the air. Swish. Pulling out the imitation of the supreme sharp sword Haidao Yi on the back, exerting strength, releasing a slash that is powerful enough to cut off the mountain peak. Tear the sea straight and fly towards Bai Yi. Same moment. The last Seraphim, standing behind, raised his palms and released a super long-distance, laser, light attack that was far more powerful than the first generation of pacifists. As soon as the battle started, Seraphim chose to seal off Bai Yi's route. And at the moment when two attacks hit at the same time, a seraph plunged into the sea, approaching Bai Yi underwater from behind with great speed. Then, while the water splashed, Seraph broke through the sea, and attacked Bai Yi together with another extremely powerful attack. Melee, long range, sneak attack, the three cooperate almost at the same time. If it is an ordinary person, it must be extremely panicked. But at the moment when three different attacks approached Bai Yi together, Bai Yi moved, stepping on the sea like walking on the ground. His eyes are indifferent, watching the three blazing angels attack. Draw the Ryujin Jakka. There are no dancing flames and flames above. However, although it's just cutting out its own current Reiatsu attached to the slash. Sword pressure. The entire space in front of Bai Yi seemed to be stuck in a quagmire. Very heavy. The terrifying slash that strikes steps into this Reiatsu realm. Visible to the naked eye stopped. Then Reiatsu collapses on its own, due to being unable to withstand the horror above it. And it's not over yet. The slash wave with terrifying Reiatsu flew straight to the seraph in front. For a moment, visible to the naked eye, the body of the seraphim, who was jumping in the air, froze, suddenly seemed to be subjected to tens or hundreds of times the gravity. Unable to adapt to this sudden change, it directly slammed into the deck below. A terrible pit appeared. At the same time, seraphim in the shape of Jinbei, rushing from behind, tried to fight melee. The first goal was to capture the Ryujin Jakka from Bai Yi's hands. It seems that the world government has made a lot of preparations for the action this time. Discover the other party's purpose. Bai Yi didn't change color in the slightest. Facing it, there are incoming light attacks and attempts from behind. Do not forget, the indifferent eyes looked at the real target as Ryujin Jakka's seraphim. Bai Yi raised his right hand, his muscles surged, and he exerted strength. Turn around and punch directly on the seraphim, whose target is Ryujin Jakka. The fist of the human met the body of the mechanically made seraphim. Bang! Seraphim is like a cannonball. He was shot straight out. The impact was not far away, and the pirates on it had collectively died of vomiting blood because they could not bear Reiatsu. Boom! Sound. The entire pirate ship turned into wreckage scattered all over the sea due to the impact. Even without Ryujin Jakka, his physical strength is far from comparable to that of Seraphim's mechanically constructed bodies. Then, notice the light attack that is coming ahead. Bai Yi raised his eyelids. Boom! More scary Reiatsu unleashed. Woman's fire. Single quote. Bai Yi raised a finger, Reiatsu released. A light attack that is far more powerful than the pacifists is flying. He was blocked by an insignificant finger. Seeing this scene, the seraphim in the distance raised its hand subconsciously and continued to attack. Result: I don't have extra time to waste with a bunch of scraps. Bai Yi's cold voice sounded. Seraphim raised his head, and suddenly, his eyes met. That is, Bai Yi's figure is like an unfathomable mountain, constantly dilated by the pupils of the seraphim. Sparks and splashing electricity began to appear on Seraph's body. Seraphim is in front of the concentrated Reiatsu, who can abruptly change the atmospheric pressure. It fell straight down. Impossible, seeing that the latest research of the world governments, Seraphim, has such a result. The pupils of the technology researchers staying at the back of the fleet were shocked. This is the second-generation pacifist, Seraphim. The cost is not only several times higher than the first generation of pacifists equivalent to a warship, but its combat power can even approach Shichibukai. Although it is currently in the unexperimental stage that has just been completed. But it's not so weak. The first phase of the Devil Slaughter project seems to have failed. The possibility of capturing that weapon is not high, and on the warship headed by world government, Kong looked at the Seraphim, who hadn't given up trying to stand up, but couldn't. There was a look of disappointment and coldness in his eyes. I miscalculated. Experimental products or experimental products. Facing the enemy that the world government really needs to deal with, they didn't even force the opponent's real strength. At present, it seems that it is not enough to replace Shichibukai. As he said that, the air on Kong's body rose. Take out another phone bug. Go to contact the recovery force, and pass the information back to the world government. Let the 5 elders wait for the good news for the rest of the matter here. Yes, Marshal Kong. The phone bug's reply sound rang. Afterwards, Kong Sora just hung up the phone bug. Facing the failure of Seraphim, the commander-in-chief of the world government's army didn't have much fluctuation in his eyes. In his eyes, the Seraphim was dispatched more to test the powerful combat power of the current experimental stage. The second is to warn those Shichibukai that the world government has the power to replace them at any time. Don't think about things you shouldn't have. And based on the premise that the Seraphim might get out of control, Kong still decided to dispatch a group of Seraphim who have not yet been tested. From the side, it shows his absolute confidence in his own strength. If the Seraphim really got out of control, then he will personally destroy the out-of-control Seraphim. That's all. In addition, now that the world government is going to end in person, they are already sure to win this extermination operation. Since neither of the 2 Admiral-level fighters can win, then the world government will send 3 of them. 4, even 5. To know, on this wide sea, the most indispensable thing is those so-called folk monsters. And this time, those folk monsters who have been watched by the world government and are eager for opportunities. World government recruited 10 candidates in just 3 days. Each one is close to, or can replace Marine Admiral's combat power. It can be said that this is one of the biggest confidences that Kong Kong personally dispatched to destroy Bai Yi. 10 folk monsters join forces. Plus himself. No matter how powerful Bai Yi is, Kong Kong doesn't believe that Bai Yi alone has any possibility of winning. Now it's your turn. Witnessing Bai Yi, who easily solved the seraphim, Kong Kong looked to the deck behind him. Pause time. This is a group of 10 special forces consisting of 2 teams each. Everyone exudes a powerful aura. It is the 10 folk monsters who are eager for opportunity from folk omens, this time by the world government. One of the long-handed men stepped forward and said playfully, "Marshal Kong, I heard that you only need to participate in this battle. And if you successfully wiped out that sinner over there who tried to threaten the world government, the person who kills the opponent can be promoted to the position of Marine Admiral, right? Yes, this is your chance to become famous in one fell swoop. Similarly, don't disappoint the expectations of the world government." Kong said in a cold voice. "Hey, old man, you're welcome, the position of Marine Admiral. I'm going to decide." It was said that a hunchbacked middle-aged man with short blonde hair had already put on the marine cloak, and a gleam flashed in his eyes. He flew towards Bai Yi violently. It's such a terrible monster, it doesn't hesitate to ask the world government to offer such a generous and attractive condition. But no matter how powerful you are, in front of my stun fruit ability, kneel down obediently. While talking, the hunchbacked middle-aged man crossed his fingers, and a yellow dizzy light shot out at his fingers. And the moment the hunchbacked middle-aged man set off. Hey, you actually want to take credit for it? Stop, lousy. The position of Marine Admiral. It belongs to lousy. The expressions of the rest of the people changed. Not to be outdone. Immediately, a big melee broke out in the sea in an instant. And at this moment, swish, although the rest of the people moved very fast, it showed that each of them was extremely strong. But the speed is obviously not as good as the hunchbacked middle-aged man who rushed to Bai Yi first. I saw the yellow dizzy light attack coming to Bai Yi one step ahead of everyone else. For a while, the entire vertigo light passed through Reiatsu, unexpectedly directly enveloping Bai Yi in it. Bai Yi suddenly felt a strange sense of being upside down. The power of devil fruit is truly magical. Sensing that his senses were being disturbed up and down, Bai Yi thought about devil fruit's ability. Some weird devil fruit abilities. Perhaps far less powerful than Logia, but sometimes it can cause unexpected effects. Can't be too careless. However, if it's only to this extent. Bai Yi raised his head and looked at the middle-aged man in the distance. In the distance, a middle-aged man with a hunchback saw that Bai Yi had been recruited, and he was overjoyed. Pulled out a short sword from his waist. Crazy straight to Bai Yi's neck. Ha, the head of this criminal is mine. And the position of Marine Admiral. I will accept it without hesitation. Now you are hit by my dizzy light, you must not be able to tell the direction of your body. Go to hell with me. The voice fell. A middle-aged man with a hunchback came before him. However, bang, the man has not yet seen the picture of Bai Yi being pierced in the throat by himself. A slash wave, but the pupils are dilated. As far as the eye could see, it was the scene where Bai Yi raised his hand and swung a knife. If it's only this level, it's too weak. Bai Yi spoke in an indifferent voice. The blade of Ryujin Jakka has fallen. No, have you been affected? This was a thought that suddenly appeared in the mind of the hunchbacked middle-aged man. Next second, the hunchbacked middle-aged man who charged towards Bai Yi instantly had a tearing line of blood on his chest, and flew straight out with a bang. Ha, the guy who is too anxious really suffers. The rest of the people who were afraid of being robbed of the Marine Admiral promise were relieved when they saw this. A strong man with suspenders on the upper body looks like a spinning top. Swinging 2 double axes suddenly flew over. This head, give it to me, Lord Dre. Die. The strong man rotates his body at high speed. On the sea, a waterspout with countless splashes was formed abruptly, sweeping madly towards Bai Yi's position. Purpose. It goes without saying, he is a strong gymnast. If Bai Yi is, no, as must be demon fruit power. As long as he pulls the opponent into the sea to fight, then he has full confidence to win Bai Yi, and thus become Marine Admiral. Thoughts arise. The man spun his body even more frantically, swinging the double axes. However, gymnastics. There was a look of disdain in Bai Yi's eyes. He steps forward. The robust muscles under the robe were exposed on his body. After that, the 5 fingers of the right hand clenched into a fist, and the blue veins were exposed. The robe is blown by Reiatsu. Looking at it made other people look pale. They could only back away. Now it seems like a giant waterspout connecting the sea and the sky. Bai Yi moved. One bone. The sea under Bai Yi's feet exploded with a pong, due to the huge leverage. Next moment, this is Bai Yi appearing in front of the giant waterspout. Blast out with a punch. There are no excessive bells and whistles, and there is no dazzling light. But physique. Boom. The huge sound instantly resounded through the sea. Thereafter, this is the waterspout that connects the sea and the sky and is forced to stop abruptly. However, this is not the end. The moment the waterspout collapsed, the physical man who tried to pull Bai Yi into the sea to fight earlier spat out a mouthful of blood visible to the naked eye. Only then did everyone find out. Bai Yi's punch not only stopped the waterspout, but even hit the man hidden inside the waterspout. It was visible to the naked eye that the man lost consciousness, and his entire chest was sunken. A mouthful of blood spurted out and crashed into the distant sea. This scene could not help but make the rest of the people who were about to step forward faintly change their colors. Good. So strong. Far stronger than the breath I feel. And, isn't that man a devil fruit ability? How dare you touch the sea? They were terrified. Sudden. The attack on Bai Yi did not stop. This time was different from the enemy who came to Bai Yi on his own initiative just now. This is an ear-piercing sound wave suddenly appearing from a distance, shaking the entire sea, trying to sneak attack Bai Yi from the side. That fool just now. Are we even included? The few people who were so shocked subconsciously dodged, and then looked up. I saw that it was the long-armed man in a blue suit who asked Sengoku first. The long-handed man looked at the sound wave attack that was already close to Bai Yi. Confident ecstasy appeared on his face. Got it. The location of Marine Admiral. It must belong to him. Ha ha ha. His devil fruit ability is sonic fruit. As the name implies, a devastating sonic attack can be launched through the throat. And even though he witnessed how powerful the monster was in the distance. But the long-handed man firmly believed. Maybe the human body can become incredibly powerful through various extreme exercises. But no matter how powerful the monster is, it is impossible for the internal organs inside the body to be as strong as the appearance. As long as the internal organs or brain are shattered, there is absolutely no possibility of survival. And his sonic fruit ability. It is such a power that can completely destroy the enemy inside. He believes in it. As long as he succeeds, there is absolutely no possibility of Bai Yi surviving. However, with this thought, suddenly, a scene that everyone present did not expect appeared. He has basically figured out all of Bai Yi's abilities. That's why they dared to do Bai Yi. I saw Bai Yi facing the man with the sonic fruit ability of the long-handed clan who was attacking him. Bai Yi raised a finger. What did he do first? Could it be that you want to use conquerors to deal with the strange ability of the seraphim just now? Are you kidding? With our strength, it's not just a conquerors. Various thoughts floated in everyone's mind. However, the next scene shocked everyone. The 4th of Hado, Shirai. Above Bai Yi's fingertips, there was an extremely dazzling blue-white thunder and lightning light. Everyone's pupils suddenly narrowed. What's going on? Didn't he eat the devil fruit with some kind of powerful fire power? In the distance, Kong Kong's expression also changed suddenly. And at this time, although this is the first time that Bai Yi has shown the ability of Shinigami Hado in front of the world, the release is the 4th, White Thunder, of Hado. But don't forget, Hado's power is linked to Shinigami's own power. So when everyone was shocked what happened to Bai Yi. This is a white thunder like a pillar of thunder flying directly from Bai Yi's hand. Its power, like a beam of thunder and lightning tearing apart the sea, directly crushed the sonic attacks coming from the side. Then he flew straight towards the discolored long-handed man in the blue suit. No. Not good. Not good. The long-handed man who kept releasing the sonic attack felt the threat of death, and his expression changed drastically. Subconsciously want to turn around and run. However, in Bai Yi's hands, Bai Lei, who is like a thunder dragon, has arrived. Boom! Unparalleled thunder and lightning explosions rose from the sea. All the shocked people froze in place. So, what the hell is going on? What is the opponent's ability? Why do you have the power to control lightning? All kinds of crazy and shocking thoughts came to the minds of the remaining 7 people. And at this time, Bai Yi glanced at the rest of the people who saw Hado for the first time and stayed in place, and saw a vaguely familiar figure in the distance. It turned out to be the future Marine Admiral Green Bull. But Bai Yi was not surprised. Instead, he looked at the people in front of him who were willing to be world government running dogs for the position of Marine Admiral, and slowly opened his mouth, pulling them back to reality and saying, "Next one, no, let's go together." Chapter 51. 1. Go together. You fool. Stop joking. Stop looking down on people. Who do you think Laozi is? Witnessing Bai Yi's arrogant attitude, he wanted to challenge all of them alone. Everyone recovered from the shock. A strong man with a hedgehog head had bulging veins on his forehead, and his 5 fingers were clenched tightly. No wonder he was so annoyed. Although I don't know what happened to Bai Yi. The information on that monster is completely different from what the world government gave them. But, since he dared to participate in this demon-slaying operation, he coveted the position of Marine Admiral privately promised by the world government. It has already explained their confidence in their own strength. Bai Yi's attitude now, obviously they don't pay attention to them at all. How can he bear this? Immediately, the strong man with the hedgehog head growled. Body shape changes rapidly. Flesh surged. Not long after, it was a half-orc monster with brown skin, 3 meters tall, and spikes on its back. Thereafter, in Zone's strongest half-orc state, the man suddenly shot the sharp spikes on his back at Bai Yi. Let's do it together. The rest of the people saw this scene. My heart sank. There are already 3 careless guys. Seeing Bai Yi's powerful and terrifying strength, there may be unknown means. Although the rest of the people were dissatisfied. But right now there is really nothing more important than solving Bai Yi. So they used all their strength to release their abilities one after another. For a while, there are cuts, has devil fruit ability means. And the future Marine Admiral Green Bull with his hands under his feet. Countless vines are derived from the planks. All kinds of attacks exuded a terrifying aura and all attacked Bai Yi. For this scene, there was no panic in Bai Yi's eyes. The massive, almost materialized Reiatsu began to pour into Ryujin Jakka. Flame, emerging from the blade of Ryujin Jakka. Witnessing that everyone is now shooting together. This is exactly what Bai Yi wanted. Because Bai Yi said, the moment they all went together. It has already been stated that Bai Yi is not interested, so I plan to waste time with this group of dead people, who are willing to be the running dogs of the world government. A dead person should recognize his position from the very beginning. Swish, the moment Bai Yi left. Like walking on the ground at sea. The scorching heat is like the sun descending on the Grand Line. The sea can't stop evaporating. Next second, all attacks were swallowed by the flames released by Ryujin Jakka. And after it, Bai Yi's figure flashed and disappeared in place. Already appeared in front of one person. Okay, so fast. Realizing the figure in front of him, the pupils of the man in the strongest half-orc state shrank. With an extremely quick reaction, he subconsciously aimed his bat covered with spikes at Bai Yi. However, the Ryujin Jakka bathed in flames has arrived. One knife. The man watched Bai Yi with indifferent eyes. I suddenly felt a tremor of fear in my body and mind. Wait for him to come back to his senses. Suddenly realized that I actually saw my lower body standing in place. That's my body. What's going on? The pupils suddenly widened. But the flames have already risen from the severed part of the body. Maintaining the state of transforming into a half-orc, before dispelling the ability, he was directly engulfed by the flames. It screamed and turned into ashes as it fell into the sea. Go first, die, go to hell, you idiot. Sudden, an angry voice sounded from the left. It was an obese middle-aged man who came back to his senses first. Seeing the half-orc man closest to him die tragically. Realized it might be him next. Without hesitation, he took the sledgehammer in his hand and slammed it at Bai Yi. Result, when the man got close to Bai Yi, he felt the almost materialized Reiatsu. The obese middle-aged man suddenly realized the gap between them and the monster in front of them who has begun to really show their strength. If you compare their mighty strength to a wide river, then Bai Yi in front of him is like a vast ocean that is unfathomable. If you drop it, you will die. Dense cold sweat oozed from his forehead. A short smashing action. At this moment, he became crazy and wanted to stay away from Bai Yi. However, meet the enemy who came to your door. How could Bai Yi plan to let him go? From the moment this group of people chose to be lackeys under the banner of the world government and fight against him, they were destined to be dead in Bai Yi's eyes. Ryujin Jakka cut an arc. After that, the scorching flame is like a tornado-shaped flame wall, directly enveloping and burning the enemy in front of you. The flame doesn't dissipate until the enemy is reduced to ashes. This move is the one Bai Yi used against Kizaru. Kizaru was able to dodge at the last second with the speed of the flash fruit. The enemy in front of him obviously couldn't do it. Then, as soon as a life screamed in the flames, it melted and turned into ashes, disappearing from this world forever. Next, Bai Yi ignored the ashes in front of him and looked elsewhere. This moment, as the two people died directly one after another, the people nearby who were extremely confident in killing Bai Yi couldn't help feeling terrified. Win, can't win, absolutely can't win. Such a monster. The world government is simply deceiving us. A balding elderly man watched two more die at the hands of Bai Yi in the blink of an eye. They didn't even have time to stop them, their legs couldn't stop shaking, and they subconsciously turned and ran away. However, seeing this moment, Bai Yi felt like shrinking back. Looking at the background where the opponent immediately ran away without hesitation. Bai Yi raised his eyes. Ryujin Jakka is placed horizontally in front of him. It is different from the blue and white Hado 4 Bele just now. This is where the golden light comes on. Next moment. Hado's 32, yellow fire flash. Reiatsu is unrivaled in its own right. Bai Yi can directly omit the singing step. A flash wave suddenly tore the sea ahead. While the expressions of the rest of the people changed. Hit the bald old man with precision. What? After a scream. Another person lost his life along with the exploding sea. And at this moment, located on this rapidly rising temperature battlefield, facing Bai Yi who showed overwhelming combat power. An uncontrollable feeling of fear spread in the hearts of the remaining few people. Bai Yi has no intention of wasting time with them. Now that I have decided to be a lackey of the world government. Be prepared to be buried in this battlefield. Not just them, the next one. It's his turn to lead the Operation Demon Slaughter, this time, the commander-in-chief of the world government's army, Kong. Now, on the battlefield of the sea area that must be passed to the Sabayati Islands. Boom, 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 as Bai Yi has no interest in playing with the dead man, after they compete for the position of Marine Admiral. The overwhelming combat power has been released. Every time you raise your hand to release an attack. Cut off Ryujin Jakka every time. Or every use of Kaido. You can see a person vomit blood, and then fly out like a shell. If you're unlucky, a face-to-face ending, spike. Yes, he will be beheaded by Bai Yi directly. Although the strength of alternate admiral is already in the ranks of strong in this sea. Not too weak. It is even the limit that countless pirates who have gone to the Grand Line can achieve in their lifetime. That is, this level can be called the Big Pirate. However, even if they are both strong, there is still a gap. If the starting strength of the alternate admiral is level 69, there is still a thin line between him and admiral, which is enough to squeeze into the bottom ranking of the strong. Then the level of combat power that Bai Yi has shown now. That's level 100, desperate combat power. Just like these dead men, in front of them, their strength is similar to that of the T-Dolphins and Momoshiki in naval headquarters. Although the level of combat power may be the same as the alternate admiral. However, there is still a certain gap between the real combat power of T-Fish and Momoshiki and the real Marine Admiral. One can imagine, when Bai Yi just unlocked to template progress, the combat power has reached the level enough to defeat two Marine Admirals at the same time. Not to mention alternate admiral. Even if the opponent is a full 10 people, among them is the future Admiral Green Bull who is infinitely close to the real Admiral combat power. But, just this level of lineup. In front of Bai Yi, it's still not enough. The real combat power gap between the two. Enough to be an overwhelming gap. Literally, overwhelming. Not to mention, Bai Yi's current template unlock progress. With each battle, Bai Yi's strength continues to rise. And at this moment, what the hell is going on with that guy? Are the guys in charge of collecting intelligence trash? Kong watched everything in front of him from behind. Fists clenched, brows furrowed. It showed that he began to vaguely feel something bad about Bai Yi's combat power at the moment. The helpers of this world government recruitment are obviously also strong people of civil origin. No matter how weak 10 people are, judging by the strength of the alternate admiral, it shouldn't be so weak. Light is just a face-to-face. It actually lost nearly half of its combat power. And there is also the power that Bai Yi showed this time. Sword skills, body skills, flames, lightning, and that golden shock wave just now. Kong can't wait to kill all the personnel responsible for collecting intelligence. Such a monster is far from what the world government has shown. What? Just as Kong was thinking about it, another scream sounded from the battlefield ahead. It represents another death at the hands of Bai Yi. Originally 10 were recruited from the 10 folk powerhouses. Now there are only 4, no, there are still 3 people barely supporting. But there is a reason why they survived. Not because of their strength. But it's not their turn yet. That's all. The expression on Kong's face could not help but sink. If you continue to let this progress continue. Except for the 10 people who have a strong life-saving ability, the Logia Sensen Fruit ability user named Wangmu. I'm afraid they will all die in Bai Yi's hands in no time. Kong gritted his teeth secretly. Suddenly, a figure flew towards him. Sora dodged subconsciously. Boom. This is a man with slightly messy black curly hair, bare upper body and tattoos, slamming blood on the cabin. Kong's complexion changed, and he was about to see the other party's situation. Suddenly, an indifferent voice came from the sea. Don't worry, the next one will be your turn. What? Kong looked in the direction of Bai Yi's voice. His heart sank. I saw the front of the sea that was gradually starting to boil due to the rising temperature. Under the sky, none of the 10 folk monsters who had originally besieged Bai Yi was standing still. Only Kong is the last to want to see that sinner standing alone in the sea. It's all defeated so quickly. It's really a bunch of trash. Kong has an ugly face. Clenched fists. At this time, a voice sounded behind the empty space of Kong. Sky, Marshal Kong, you can't win. That dangerous monster is not something that ordinary humans can defeat. Dragging his deeply injured body, he barely got up. The person who speaks is the one who will become the Green Bull, Huang Mu, who will lower the overall strength of Marine Admiral the most in the future. Huang Mu looked at the terrifying sea battlefield, and his face revealed a lingering fear that could not be concealed at the moment. If he hadn't taken advantage of Bai Yi to attack others just now, he didn't use Ryujin Jakka to chop him down. Huang Mu didn't hesitate to lose a layer of skin if he didn't die. Him now, but he didn't intend to participate in killing Bai Yi, and then take over the very attractive position of Marine Admiral. After all, as far as the eye can see, Bai Yi killed several people in a row. Can't see any consumption at all. And if he hadn't been very lucky just now, Huang Mu has no doubt that even the dense fruit endowed him with vitality far beyond ordinary people. I may have to explain here today. Although his real strength is the strongest among the 10 people just now. But because of this, Huang Mu is very clear. What a terrifying existence that monster alone is. That kind of terrifying combat power is definitely not at the level of Marine Admiral's combat power, and it is even far above that. So, Kong's expression sank. Aramaki scratched the back of his head, and a flower grew like a fan spinning rapidly from behind. I'm sorry, Marshal Sora, I'm going to retreat. It seems that I'm out of luck for the position of Marine Admiral this time. Good luck. You. Seeing that there was only one folk monster who was still alive, he even had the idea of running away at this moment. Kong's expression sank. Then, witnessing the moment when the green bull turned around, the veins on Kong's forehead bulged, and he let out a low growl. Since all of you trash are useless, let's all die. Clenching a fist, the deep black armament hockey wrapped around his fist, and blatantly blasted towards the back of the green bull, Aramaki. Next second, visible to the naked eye, green bull, Huang Emu's face changed drastically, and he was about to resist. But in the face of Kong's fist, the already injured green bull didn't even have time to resist. Then he was hit hard on the back, and the sound of bones breaking sounded. Then, green cow, Huang Mu spit out a mouthful of blood mixed with pieces of internal organs, which instantly turned into a cannonball and flew out. It directly hit an island nearly 1,000 meters away. And do it all. The anger on Kong's face did not subside in the slightest. He turned around. He stared at Bai Yi viciously, and then tore off the cape of the Generalissimo of the World Government Army on his back. An incomparably powerful aura erupted from his whole body. The warship under his feet, and even the nearby objects are crushed abruptly. Since those guys are all a bunch of trash, now, let the old man kill you himself. Feel honored, sinner. Since the old man took over as the commander-in-chief of the world government, it has been more than 20 years since the old man has done anything with anyone. Quote. Leave behind a voice containing cold killing intent. Kong empty feet exert strength. Suddenly, boom, the front end of the warship collapsed. Huge cracks of collapse spread out. At the same time, Kong quickly approached Bai Yi. Visible to the naked eye, the dark, deep armament hockey wraps around Kong's whole body. The coverage of armament hockey has reached the 100% full coverage that shocked countless people in the outside world. And it's different from Doflamingo's Virgo. Kong has truly achieved what it is called in the outside world. The whole body is like a whole piece of Kong. Pleasure. Seeing Kong, the commander-in-chief of the world government's army, finally couldn't help but act. There was a hint of coldness in Bai Yi's indifferent eyes. The hypocritical world government can make jokes, so it seems that this will be your last words. Reiatsu released. Next moment, Bai Yi and Kong slammed into each other, their eyes glanced at the sky not far away. Don't worry, after you die, there will be a guy hiding in the dark who will be buried here with you. Boom. On the battlefield in this sea area, the two figures quickly approached. Bai Yi and Kong fought against each other. And the first collision between the two. The power it creates, forcibly tearing the sea apart into a terrifying hole with a diameter of hundreds of meters. And the aftermath that spread in all directions resounded through the entire Grand Line like thunder. Boom, boom, all the nearby islands, and even countless people in the Sabayati Islands could not help but wonder. What's going on today? It was obviously daytime, did it suddenly thunder? Ordinary people's reaction is mostly the same. But for the real strong with strength. But his face changed. They sensed two extremely powerful auras, and a terrifying battle is breaking out. This moment, a large amount of seawater is pouring into the battlefield that has been torn out of the abyss. Strong. The figure reappeared. This was Bai Yi's first intuitive impression. Relying solely on physical strength. Kong is among all the opponents Bai Yi has fought so far. The only opponent who cannot lose to him physically. Moreover, the strength of armed color can be enhanced through continuous practice. A force that accumulates in the body over time like an ever-expanding pool. It has been more than 20 years since I have shot again, but I have never stopped exercising. One can imagine, Kong is empty of the armament hockey that has accumulated in his body for more than 20 years. Whether it is the quality that can be used at this time, or the quantity of the armed color. Once it is turned on, what a terrifying level it will reach. In a short time, maintain the emptiness in this Kong state. The real combat power is definitely close to the apex limit of Marine Admiral. And the General Marine Admiral is absolutely difficult to be the opponent of Kong. As a pure taijutsu and use hockey powerhouse like Garp. Demon fruit power encountered such an opponent at sea, it was nothing like a nightmare. No wonder, Kong was so confident that he personally led the team to carry out the Operation Demon Slaying, never thinking that it would fail. Kong's biggest hole card, now it seems, is himself. I'm afraid the Marine Admiral position promised to those folk powerhouses earlier. The real purpose behind it. Just like the original Seraphim. It would be the best if Bai Yi can be captured, so that the marine government under the world government which is acting as a running dog, can take advantage of the opportunity to supplement the strength of an admiral who was killed by Bai Yi. If you can't get it, then consume Bai Yi's physical strength as much as possible and force out his true strength. And finally, he personally took action to bring an end to this demon-slaying operation to exterminate the sinners. Have to say, Bai Yi looked at the Kong who now showed the strength that the general commander of the world government army should have. The opponent made almost all calculations very well. But facing Sora, who entered the state of Kong, Bai Yi had already discovered the opponent's weakness the first time they fought against each other. That is, the armed color covering the whole body is of course very powerful. It can multiply Kong's physique and physical skills, and even enhance it several times. This kind of full body coverage armed color can be maintained at all times. The consumption speed of the user itself is also very terrifying. And every attack will sharply increase the consumption of armed colors. It can be said, if Bai Yi ignores Kong now, once Kong gets rid of the current state, victory in this war will naturally belong to Bai Yi. But even though he knew it, Bai Yi has no intention of taking advantage of it. After all, if only to solve a watchdog sent by the world government. It's all so troublesome. He should not be delusional. Next, go to overthrow the world and take revenge on the world government that stood behind the Kong sky. Since you like staying in the dark so much, then take a good look, Kaido, you will also be buried here in the last sight. Bai Yi tore through the air and attacked the Kong again, and suddenly said such a sentence inexplicably. Then, don't give Kong the time to change his face. I saw the originally seemingly endless Reiatsu tearing the sky and pouring out in all directions. At this moment Bai Yi body Reiatsu from this moment. Boom. Impressively, it began to turn into a bright orange-red flame that spewed out madly. It was as spectacular and terrifying as the endless sea of flames filling the sea and occupying the entire sky. At the same time, the sea under Bai Yi's feet began to tremble uncontrollably. A large amount of white steam filled the air, and the temperature increased sharply. At the same time, in the sea area centered on Bai Yi bathing in flames, the height of the sea level is dropping at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boom. And this accident, it is not only the sea area where Bai Yi is affected. The nearest Sabayati bottom islands, Grand Line, even Summit War, everyone suddenly felt an extremely hot temperature coming. What happened? Even though it's noon, the temperature in Sabayati Islands has never reached this level. It's so hot, I can clearly feel the water in my body evaporating rapidly. If this continues, there may be a risk of death. The first place on the Grand Line to feel the temperature is not right today. Naturally, the closest islands are the Sabayati bottom islands. Many people subconsciously gulp down water. But the feeling of extremely thirsty throat has no meaning of relief. And this is not the case with individual people. Yes, almost everyone on the Sabayati Islands. Really, what the hell is going on? Rip off the bar not far from the grass. Shaki noticed that the temperature in the air was slightly wrong, and she looked aside. Rayleigh stared at the direction of the sea outside the Sabayati Islands. Seeing this, Shaki frowned. Did something happen over there? Shaki subconsciously looked in Rayleigh's direction. Next moment, Shaki froze on the spot, his pupils shrank slowly, flashing an unstoppable shock. I don't know when. The sea around Sabayati Islands. White steam is actually coming out. The sea is vaguely boiling like boiling water that is about to be boiled. Shaki jerked his head up to the sun in the sky. Feeling the direction of Rayleigh's eyes again, the sea area where high temperature is constantly escaping. Shaki's heart skipped a beat. What's the situation over there? Could it be that the sun descended on the Grand Line? The other side. Boom. The temperature has increased dramatically, and perhaps it has really come down like the sun on the battlefield on the Grand Line. Wow. A large amount of seawater evaporates crazily, protecting. The scorching flames soaring into the sky occupy the entire sea, as spectacular and terrifying as swallowing the sky. And in the center of the sea of flames occupying the entire sea, there is only one figure standing there. Exudes a palpitating horror atmosphere. Kong shock punch. At this moment, Zhou Tian suddenly sounded. This is Kong who realized something was wrong. His face changed, and he clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. All the almost materialized armament Haki gathered in the fist, and blasted out brazenly. The air exploded in an instant. Huge sound waves and shock waves visible to the naked eye suddenly appeared. There were ripples in the trembling space. It is conceivable that Kong's blow was terrifying. However, it was this seemingly incomparably terrifying attempt to extinguish the flames. But at the moment of contact with the flames, all shocks are gone. The Kong, whose whole body was covered with armed colors, changed before he landed. Unbelievable what he saw. His attack doesn't work. How is that possible? And at this time, suddenly, flames exuding frighteningly high temperatures began to spread towards both sides of Bai Yi. Fire that occupies the sky, flames gone. Kong's expression changed again. Suddenly noticed. No, most of the flames poured into Ryujin Jakka in Bai Yi's hand. See this scene. A drop of cold sweat immediately evaporated from Kong's forehead, and his pupils widened subconsciously. This scene. It seems to be the information reported by Marine Admiral Kizaru. The real most dangerous moment for that man. How is this possible? It turned out to be exactly the same as the information. That kind of high temperature that is hard enough to evaporate an entire sea area. Wasn't Akainu's lava fruit power involved from the start? All kinds of crazy thoughts kept bumping into the empty mind. Can be final. All thoughts converged into one point. That is the present moment. The man in front of him. Very dangerous, although only alone. But experience it yourself. Kong decided that Bai Yi in front of him was more than a threat. No, it must be far above the rocks pirates 38 years ago. And, no matter what, the world government will do everything possible to erase this sinner in front of us. Otherwise, feeling the terrible breath of death that has never been seen before. On this grand line, the world government may face an unprecedented crisis. Thoughts here. Sudden. Shunpo. Bai Yi's figure suddenly disappeared in place. Disappeared. Kong's pupils shrank sharply. In an instant, he felt a terrifying high temperature hit his face. He subconsciously pulled away quickly. Next second. As far as the eye can see, this is the picture of beheading Ryujin Jakka day and night. Although his reaction has been very fast. But Bai Yi is moving too fast now. Too fast. The moment a wrist was covered with flames, the flesh and blood began to melt, turning into bones. And then turning into ashes. And with that knife cut down. Before Kong could make a sound from the severe pain. Boom. The final landing point of Ryujin Jakka is clearly the air. Underneath, there is an entire sea that is directly evaporated. Are you kidding me? My armament Haki can't stand it. His pupils shrank sharply. Ignoring the pain, he gritted his teeth and cut off his forearm to stop the terrifying flames that were trying to spread. Kong backed away hastily. His head was going crazy. This kind of monster should not exist in the world. Are you really kidding me? Kong's scalp is numb. Suddenly, I found that Bai Yi swung the second knife and came again. This time, looking at the attack that was too late to dodge. A frightening idea of shaking was vaguely born in the hollow of Kong. He may die. Those wastes like Marine who failed to wipe out one after another died in this demon-slaying operation. Wait. Realize that you are going to die. Kong suddenly shouted out. Bai Yi, the former colonel of the North Blueg 64 Marine Branch, is the information obtained by the world government correct? Hearing the name G64 branch again, Bai Yi paused slightly. What do you mean? Kong heaved a sigh of relief, accumulating energy secretly. If the old man told you that before the start of this extermination of all evil, demon-slaying operation, he had ordered people to go to West Blue, what do you think would be the result? You don't know, do you? Those stupid Marines in West Blue actually wanted to report the whole story to the Marine government, but they forgot that without the permission of the Marine government, how could such a thing happen? So, Bai Yi realized the other party's plan and asked. Seeing that it was actually effective, Kong secretly gritted his teeth. The threat of this sinner has far exceeded the world government's initial estimate. When he has the opportunity to return to world government, he will definitely make all preparations next time. It's very simple. I advise you not to act rashly. Enduring the severe pain in his wrist, Kong raised his head and threatened loudly. Besides, if I die here, the third phase of Operation Demon Slaughter that is, the final blow will begin. At that time, no matter how powerful you are, you will only die here. If you understand. Puff. Kong hadn't finished speaking yet, only the fist on one arm was not ready yet. A sudden scene appeared. Zhao Hao. Bai Yi has no intention of negotiating conditions with Kong at all, nor does he have the idea of delaying time. Ryujin Jakka beheaded. Immediately with the next blow, behead Kong, the commander-in-chief of the world government's army, here. Corpses and heads quickly melting in the flames. The expression on Kong Sora's face still seems to indicate. How is it possible? Could it be that the threat is ineffective? Isn't the reason why this man chose to stand against the world government because some untouchables died? Didn't he care about the safety of the G6 branch? Although Kong subconsciously believes that the G64 branch should be destroyed by now. But since it is effective, the other party should not act rashly again. But the unexpected result of making Kong empty is. Without any hesitation, Bai Yi chopped off his head with a single knife. In fact, when Kong suddenly said something about the G64 branch, Bai Yi already realized that something might have happened to North Blue. But for Bai Yi, who has come to Grand Line now, what the world government has done, just adding reasons for Bai Yi to completely destroy them. Watch as Kong's body is rapidly engulfed in flames separating the corpses. At this moment, Bai Yi is concerned about the killing of the world government generalissimo, which is enough to shock the entire Grand Line. Bai Yi's heart didn't fluctuate too much. After all, in his view, Kong is just a watchdog killed on the way to subvert the world government. That's all. As for the so-called consequences that you will have to bear once you kill the other party. Could it be that if the other party is spared, the world government will let Bai Yi go, with compassion? Do not make jokes, in order not to let anyone threaten the rule of the world government. How many scandals have the world government ever done? I learned that someone studied the text of history. Without hesitation, order the Marine government to launch a buster call to destroy Ohara. Obscure the real world history. Then to establish the Shichibukai system. Deliberately create a balance of 3 major forces among Marine, Shichibukai, and 4 Emperor's pirates. Let the whole world be in all kinds of chaos all year round. What it does. The ultimate goal is to make the rule of the world government always rest easy. Any signs of threatening the world government are not allowed to appear. Anyone who is like this, the basic end will be the same as that of the Rocks pirates in the past. Except for a few who actually lived through the horrors of the Rocks. Today's sea. Many people don't even know that before Roger became One Piece, there is also a pirate group called Rocks in this world. One can imagine, not even his name was allowed. How domineering the world government is to anyone or anything that threatens their power. Have you seen enough? At this time, standing on the battlefield, Bai Yi raised his head and suddenly looked at the sky not far away. There was a powerful aura that had been in the dark when he and Kong fought empty-handed. The other party's breath reveals a tyranny, self-confidence, and arrogance. Now on the entire first half of the Grand Line, except knowing Whitebeard who will start the Summit War, CDBE. To be able to have this level of breath, only the 4 emperors, Kaido. This is why Bai Yi called out the name Kaido. And the moment Bai Yi's voice fell, boom, the color of the sky changed faintly, and the dark clouds shrouded it, forming a stark contrast with the sea evaporated by Bai Yi on the other side, as if divided into 2 worlds. Follow closely. Ooh, he was actually discovered. Laozi thought he was hiding well. A ferocious huge dragon head emerged from the clouds, followed by a huge body rolling in the clouds, with blue scales all over its top, and its sharp claws trampling on the flame cloud. Not for a while. This is a huge and ferocious blue dragon that occupies the entire sky not far away. A unique look that would intimidate countless people on the Grand Line. No doubt, it is the doubt that surrounds everyone in the first half of the Grand Line. Pirate one of the 4 emperors. Beasts. Kaido. Kaido had indeed been here long ago. But there is no reason for showing up at the first time, it is very simple. He is a fighting maniac, a lunatic, looking for a fight, looking for an opponent, and he will not hesitate to make a scene anywhere. But he is not a fool. A lineup of the level of world government just now. Before you know what the world government wants to do, Kaido has no doubt that once he shows up, Kong will directly order to attack him. He came here to seek a fight, not to provoke the big trouble of the world government. As one of the pirates who have personally experienced the 38-year God's Valley War and survived, Kaido knows very well that the marine government is a soft persimmon and can be provoked at will. With his ability, no one can keep him. But the world government, even with the background he has accumulated for decades, is not the time to cause this big trouble. Therefore, Kaido chose to wait and see for the time being. Then, take the opportunity to kill Bai Yi. That's right. Kaido has already killed Bai Yi at this moment. At first he wanted to fight with Bai Yi. Kaido prefers to find this so-called folk monsters than those wastes who only play house, pirate games. If it's pleasing to the eye, the beast's pirates have a chance to increase their combat power. However, after witnessing the terrifying strength of Bai Yi in the distance, Kaido's mind changed. Such a powerful guy. Although the world government will definitely find ways to destroy Bai Yi after learning about what happened here, just like killing the incomparably powerful rocks back then. But in case, even if the probability is very small, Bai Yi survived by luck, and came to the new world. At that time, such a powerful guy. It is bound to break the balance of power in the entire new world. It is a direct threat to the forces of the four emperors who are at the apex of pirates. Do not forget, now Bai Yi is alone. Once you have your own power, who dares to say that the existing four emperors' forces in New World can stabilize this man? Therefore, Kaido has gone from looking for a fight, to killing Bai Yi here. And now, the reason why he showed up. Naturally, I witnessed Bai Yi going through battle after battle. And then to the battle with the world government's commander-in-chief, Kong. The aura on Bai Yi's body is currently terrifying. But absolutely impossible without any consumption. No matter how powerful a monster is, its physical strength cannot be unlimited. Kaido firmly believes in this. What's more, Bai Yi didn't eat the ability of Zone Devil Fruit. So in Kaido's view now, if you want to kill Bai Yi, this future, is destined to become a huge threat to break the New World forces. Now, in front of you, is the best opportunity. At the same time, Holy Land, Mariajoy, world government, has the Morgans been notified? Mostly empty top meeting room here. A 5 elders with long straight white hair and a long beard was sitting on the sofa. He raised his head, exuding a sense of oppression, and looked towards the front of the meeting room. I saw, in front of the conference room door. This is a CPO member kneeling on one knee and wearing a mask. Feeling the pressure in 5 elders' tone, the CPO members hurriedly nodded and reported. Masters 5 elders, all the news prepared in advance has been sent to the World Economic News Agency, and our people will personally check every piece of content when it is published in the newspaper. You can be sure that no mistakes will occur. Quote, hear this satisfactory answer. 5 elders with long white beards nodded and said, okay, you go down and wait for orders at any time. Yes, Lords 5 elders. Hearing this, the CPO members stood up and silently guarded the corridor leading to the conference room to prevent anyone from disturbing them. And at this moment, meeting room, another 5 elders with a birthmark on his forehead watched the CPO members leave and said, don't worry, Morgans is a smart guy. Morgans should be very clear about what to do and what not to do. He should be very clear about what will happen if he dares to violate the order of the world government. After speaking, 5 elders with the birthmark on his forehead picked up a reward order and continued. In this way, by mastering the news of the World Economic News, we have gained the power to control the public opinion of the entire world, whether it is the untouchables living in the 4 seas, or the bottom guys of the Grand Line and New World. You are not qualified to know the truth. Good. 5 elders, with short blonde hair, nodded in agreement and said, now we just have to wait for Kong to send back the good news and wipe out that sinner. Next, it's Whitebeard's turn, Kaido's turn, and then it's time to clean up the entire first half of the Grand Line. The voice fell. Another 5 elders spoke, with a cold voice. In my opinion, the world government has been silent for too long, and it has made the whole sea forget who is the master. Holding first-generation Goosh in his arms, the bald 5 elders stood by the window of the conference room, overlooking the world outside the world government, and continued. Taking advantage of this opportunity, just let some guys and forces who should not have ideas sober up and realize how stupid it is for them to dare to oppose the world government. That's right, several five elders chatted here. During the conversation, he didn't regard the decision to clean up the first half of the Grand Line as a major event at all. In their eyes, it seems that everyone and everything living on the first half of the Grand Line are nothing but captive cattle and sheep raised by the world government. And at this time, suddenly, no, it's not good. A hurried voice came from the corridor outside. Five elders and others collectively frowned. Let him in, what's going on outside? Need all this panic? It looked like an intelligence officer ran in with a panicked expression. One said in a dissatisfied tone. Could it be that naval headquarters fell to Whitebeard? No, no. The panicked world government intelligence member shook his head violently at first. Then what happened? Five elders with short blonde hair showed dissatisfaction on his face. It seems that it is not just that the world government has been silent for too long, so that the outside world has forgotten the power of the world government. Even the trash under his hand should be replaced. I don't know, I thought the enemy captured naval headquarters, or they had already reached Marineford. Yes, it's news about Marshal Kong. Null. Hearing the words, the faces of several people changed slightly when they heard that it was Kong. What happened to Kong? Hearing the words, five elders, who was holding the ghost of first generation, stood up immediately, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. The world government personnel in charge of intelligence suddenly felt a strong sense of oppression. He lowered his head and reported with a firm scalp. Just now, Marshal Kong's life card suddenly burned out. A brief silence appeared in the conference room. Thereafter, how is this possible? With a look of disbelief on the face of the blonde five elders, he got up and looked at the other five elders. Life card, this is a special paper unique to New World. The life card will shrink when the owner is weak, and will return to its original size when the person restores health. Therefore, many high-level world government will have this kind of thing, including the celestial dragons living in the Holy Land. In order to keep abreast of the situation of every celestial dragons traveling outside. In contrast, if the life card is suddenly burned out, that means the owner of the life card has dead. In other words, Kong, who is the generalissimo of the world government's army, is dead at this moment. Can't even Sora be able to deal with that sinner. Behind, the bearded five elders who spoke first widened their eyes, revealing disbelief. Subconsciously, I looked at each other with other five elders, and I could see the disbelief in each other's eyes. The operation to exterminate the criminals was personally approved by them. They can be said to be very clear about what preparations Kong has made. 10 seraphs, who are comparable to backup Admiral civilian powerhouses and are still in the experimental phase of the PX project, plus Sora himself. With that kind of combat power, even if it is to wipe out a Four Emperors pirate group on the spot, it should be more than a mistake. What's more, Kong is the target of priority elimination this time. Is a sinner who is alone. And not long ago, Kong sent someone to send an order to wait for the good news. But they can't think of it anyway. What we are waiting for at this moment is the news of the death of Kong, the generalissimo of the world government army. How can they accept this for a while? Could it be that there is another powerful force hidden behind that sinner alone? All kinds of thoughts arise. Sudden, a phone bug rang in the short blonde five elders' arms. Five elders saw that they were sending people to North Blue's fleet, and immediately took over. But immediately, when I heard the news that the operation failed over there, the short-haired five elders fell silent. The five fingers slowly clenched, and the joints turned white. What the hell is it? North Blue's joint operation to erase all traces of that sinner's existence also failed. What are you kidding? The thoughts are extremely chaotic. Several five elders couldn't accept the news that Kong died empty. At this time, sitting on the main seat of the sofa in the conference room, wearing a black suit, with white curly hair, a fluffy white beard, a flat hat, and a scar on the left side of his face. Five elders, who hadn't said a word the whole time, opened their eyes. The sound brought the remaining five elders back to their senses. He is holding a cane in his hand. First, he glanced at the panicked intelligence personnel. Then he opened his mouth and said, "Go down first." "Yes, my lords." The world government reporter, who was out of breath under the pressure of the atmosphere, hurried down. At this time, 5 elders with short blonde hair wanted to say something. The 5 elders, with their shaggy beards, raised their hands and stopped him from speaking. Then look at the other 5 elders. It's useless to panic now. Since the second phase of the Operation Demon Slaying has failed, then follow me to greet the adult, so that the third phase of the Slaughter Demon plan can begin. Phase 3. 5 elders stared wide-eyed, and the doctor said, "Use Kong to fight that sinner, then maybe even the Sabayati Islands will not be left behind." Yes, 5 elders, with his long white beard, also showed a touch of emotion on his face. Obviously, the so-called third stage of Slaying Demon Project is also the final stage. The rest of the 5 elders know exactly what that means. That's one click away. A terrifying power that could wipe an entire kingdom off the Grand Line. Although the third stage was added when the plan was formulated. But they never thought they would need to do that. After all, once you have consulted that adult for instructions, another place on the Grand Line will be completely lost to history. What are the Sabayati Islands? It's fine if they're not under construction, they're just some entertainment facilities and the people living on them, and they're only affected to the extent that they're affected. Even if 1/10 of the people have a chance of surviving, that's enough. The most important thing now is to completely deal with that sinner. The tone of the shaggy bearded 5 elders is unmistakable. Whether it's you or that lord, you probably don't want to see the next rocks appear again. Rocks. At the name, the remaining 5 elders fell silent. Subsequently, the 5 of them got up and walked towards the depths of the Holy Land Mariajoy. That's right, for the stability and rule of the world government. There is absolutely no room for another rocks in this day and age. The other side, when the 5 elders went to prepare to ask Kong for instructions, once the sky died, it would use the absolute power. Bai Yi is here. Boom. Hot interest. Occupying this sea, Kaido, who seems to be separated from one of the 2 worlds, has already taken office. Boom. On the cloudy sky, Kaido opened his mouth wide. Light shines from the mouth. Against the backdrop of dark clouds, a scorching breath that spread for tens of kilometers burst out. Swish. Its power pierced through the sea in an instant, enough to easily destroy an island. This is one of Kaido's signature abilities. Hot interest. Let Lousy come and see it, compared to those little devils who are bored and only play house games in the Grand Line. How much strength do you have now? Whoosh. The heat that pierces the sky and the sea is heading straight for Bai Yi. Kaido's eyes were fixed on the figure standing on the evaporated sea in the distance. Keep the eyes in the green dragon form full of fighting spirit. However, witnessing the terrifying, hot breath, rapidly dilated in the pupil. Bai Yi, who had just beheaded Kong, didn't show any emotion in his eyes. Because the temperature emanating from hot breath is in front of Ryujin Jakka. Too weak. The figure stood still, and the orange-red flames emitting terrifying heat rose up. Ryujin Jakka beheaded. In Kaido's anticipation full of fighting spirit, the 2 met. However, the picture that appears is not that the destructive power of heat will swallow up the dry sea including Bai Yi. Or Bai Yi in a state of severe physical loss, was forced to retreat by heat. The results are, the moment the terrifying heat that pierces the sky and the sea rushes in front of you. Ripped straight down the middle by Bai Yi. Afterwards, hot breath showed a bifurcated picture. Hot breath was forcibly divided into 2. Boom towards the distant sea in the left and right directions behind Bai Yi. Boom, boom. 2 explosions enough to destroy the island resounded in the distance one after another. Kaido, who occupies a sky full of dark clouds, has no intention of paying attention. A pair of dragon eyes focused on Bai Yi, who was intact after the dust and smoke dissipated in the distance. Because Kaido sees very clearly. The moment hot breath came into contact with Bai Yi. From the beginning to the end, that man only swung his knife once. Then split his heat breath attack from the middle. Not only Bai Yi was in the original position, and he didn't take a step back even because of the impact of the heat. Strong. This was Kaido's first thought. He deserves to be the guy who dared to challenge the behemoth of the world like rocks back then. But immediately, Kaido opened his bloody mouth again. The killing intent contained in the fighting intent in his eyes is even stronger. That's why, this dangerous man who will threaten the status of the current 4 Emperors pirates once he comes to the new world in the future. He must die here. And before killing Bai Yi. Kaido doesn't deny it. Kaido came to the first half of the Grand Line from the boring new world, and his purpose was to find a strong opponent, to see if there is anyone in this world who can kill him. And the man in front of him that made him want to kill. Either the former or the latter. In this world, there is no one who meets all my requirements better than the man in front of me. Then, Bad whined, hovering its huge body. Kaido's ferocious dragon head was slightly tilted back. Immediately, he aimed at Bai Yi's next second again. A large number of cyan wind blades that looked like a sickle weasel slashed and rushed towards the direction where Yu Yi was. The air was split instantly, sending out a distorted whistling. Thereafter, that's not enough for that dangerous fellow. A sharp light flashed in Kaido's eyes. Then the dragon body made a circular motion like a spinning top in place. Followed by several huge tornadoes, sweeping a lot of debris and seawater moving towards Bai Yi together. After the bad wind, Kaido felt that this trick was not enough to threaten Bai Yi for the real strong, so he used tornado. A split second, bad winds and tornadoes occupy the entire battlefield space. Uwu, this time, you can't be intact. Let Laozi see. How are you going to proceed? Swish. Kaido raised his ferocious dragon head and laughed like a loudspeaker. For a moment, the area where Kaido was located was thundering and lightning. And at this moment, boom, watch Kaido wreak havoc across the skies behind, bad wind, and tornado. Bai Yi thought that Kaido's luck was very good more than once in the past. Obviously just eating a devil fruit, but at the same time controlling several elemental attack methods. In a sense, if the world of pirates does not have a form comparable to the devil fruit sun god Nika form, Kaido's devil fruit is the strongest among all zone. Powerful enough to be given the title of the strongest creature of the sea, land and air. It is enough to show the power of the fish fruit, phantom beast species, and blue dragon form. Bai Yi once traveled to the period of pirate world. He had thought of getting this devil fruit. Pity. The original Bai Yi, facing this world of pirates who can only rely on innate talent plus background supremacy. There is simply no chance to compete with those monsters for the mighty devil fruit. Even if you exercise day after day, you can't compare with those natural monsters in the sea. But even so, now that the system has awakened, he has been given the template of Yamamoto Genryūsai that he can choose. Bai Yi doesn't think there is any power of devil fruit at the moment comparable to the strongest Shinigami template he has today. Akainu's lava fruit will not work. Kizaru's glitter fruit doesn't work. Kaido's phantom beast fruit, not to mention. And everything will become an obstacle on his way to subvert the world government. As Kaido's next doomed fate, just like Bai Yi beheaded, Kong unprecedentedly said. Since you like staying in the dark so much, then watch carefully, Kaido, you will also be buried here in the last scene. Now, swish, boom, facing a large number of cyan wind blades that tear the sky like a weasel slashing, and tornadoes that roll up various debris and the sea rumbling. Bai Yi moved, eyes staring back at Kaido wreaking havoc on the side of the dark cloud that divides the world. Step forward, boom, use your feet. Visible ripples appeared in the air. Moment. A large amount of seawater was evaporated, exposing the dry seabed, and the land suddenly shattered. The naked eye can see a large pit that is sunken and broken out layer by layer. Boom. Thereafter, Bai Yi's figure appeared in the air, and the scorching heat dissipated. Okay, Kaido behind witnessed such a terrifying scene. Pupils froze. Next second, the bright flames soaring into the sky instantly occupied the entire sky where the blue wind blade and the tornado flew away. Whether it is the countless blue wind blades flying like a sickle weasel, or the rumbling tornado that rolls up debris in the sea. In front of the suffocating high temperature, all of them collapsed directly. Then, it was a path into the field of dark skies. Like bright stars in the dark night, no. It's a figure of a man bathed in flames that can't be ignored, rushing towards him suddenly. Kaido's ferocious dragon head froze. Immediately, I felt the terrifying heat waves coming in front of me. Kaido, who has plenty of combat experience, suddenly came back to his senses and let out a roar. Tornado bad wind, look at the trick, open your bloody mouth wide. The sky full of dark clouds instantly dropped several flashes of blue and white light and thunder, falling from the sky. It smashed towards Bai Yi, who was approaching rapidly. Follow closely. Kaido then makes the dragon body rotate in a circular motion like a top and release bad wind, which is enough to cut all the nearby terrain. Trying to use this to hinder the figure that is rapidly approaching him. However, Kaido saw it with his own eyes. Thunder fell on Bai Yi, who was surrounded by bright flames. But it has no effect at all. It can't even stop that man's footsteps. Not only that, the field formed by the tornado bad wind. Just a boost to feel. But the next second, Bai Yi shattered the wind blade and was coming. This moment, standing the figure with dilated pupils. Kaido panicked a little. This guy's physical strength. What is going on? Isn't there a bit of consumption? Roar. In desperation, Kaido let out a growl. The momentum of the huge body covered with blue scales is rising steadily. Face Bai Yi. Choose to rush out to meet this head-on collision. Next second, thunder and lightning flashed, and the sky was covered with dark clouds. The terrifying collision sound appeared. Boom. Its voice is like thunder, causing a sensation in the first half of the Grand Line. The clouds above the sky were all torn apart. It is the terrible aftermath. Rolling the sea. Crossing the battle sea area, turning the sea in the nearby sea area into huge waves, rolling towards the islands, towns, and sky far away. Boom, boom, Sabayati Bottom Islands. With the appearance of Kaido, it brings dark clouds, lightning and thunder. Today, the Sabayati Bottom Islands are the closest to the Bai Yi and Kaido battlefields. Countless people above couldn't feel this more strongly. Is the world going to be destroyed? What the hell happened over there? Oh my god, countless people trembled, compared to the Summit War, which was originally the world's attention. Now many people in the Sabayati Islands are running to the edge, the port, and their hearts are constantly being strongly shaken. Because at this moment, the sea around the Sabayati Islands is crazily steaming with white steam, surging like boiled water, and the horizontal line has dropped a bit visible to the naked eye. At the same time, because of the loud noise and terrifying aftermath like a thunderclap, everyone on the entire Sabayati archipelago could clearly feel that the island beneath them was trembling visibly. Coupled with the huge waves rolling over like a tsunami. The wind pressure spread by the aftermath was like a sharp blade, and the shaving face was painful. The scalps of countless people on the Sabayati Islands were numb. Witnessing the high temperature coming from the direction of the sea area far away, but on the other side the sky is covered with dark clouds and thunder is flashing. It was as if the sea area was forcibly split into two worlds. This terrifying movement, obviously, although at the beginning, the world government had the idea of taking advantage of the Summit War to cover up the Operation Demon Slaying. Then take the opportunity to carry out a thorough cleaning of the first half of the Grand Line. But now with the defeat of Kong, Kaido is fighting Bai Yi again. It is very difficult not to attract the attention of the entire Grand Line. Boom, boom, Captain Kid, that kind of ability, is it for Emperor's Kaido? The pirate who was holding onto a root of the Yarchman mangrove and desperately trying to stabilize his body was extremely shocked. Looking at the sound waves and movements that seemed to destroy the world in the far distance, he shouted in despair. Didn't the Four Emperors Kaido come to the Grand Line to attack the naval headquarters in the first half? How could it appear in the sea near the Sabayati Islands? The pirate said, but the nearby supernova pirates who gathered in Sabayati Islands this year ignored him. He stared at the sky full of lightning and flames in the extreme distance. Ascetic monk, Yoroj was shocked, put his hands together, and sighed. What if the other side is the legendary Four Emperors Kaido? Who is Kaido fighting? It was able to cause such a terrifying movement. Feeling the earth-shattering movement from far away. The Kid, Scourgeman Arp, Basil Hawkins and others present were subconsciously silent. As this year's supernova pirate, each one is a pirate standing at the apex of various origins, or the Grand Line's respective hometown. Before entering the New World, countless dreams and wealth were entrusted to the New World. Result: now I personally feel the collision of the monsters that really stand at the apex, just the aftermath that is transmitted from the extremely distant sea area is so terrifying. The blow to them can be imagined. There was solemnity and a trace of fear in everyone's eyes. After all ambitious pirates going to the New World are very clear in their hearts at this moment. The exaggerated and terrifying aftermath of the inhuman monster, from extremely far away. It turned out to be the object of their delusion to challenge. Pirates standing at the top of the New World. 4 emperors. And at this time, as the aftermath continues to spread to naval headquarters, and even across the calm belt, to the Amazon lily on the calm belt. Suddenly, what? A growling sound of pain suddenly spread across the Grand Line. Made many people above the bottom islands of Sabayati tremble. Kaido's voice. It turns out that in the sky far away from the sea, is the 4 emperors. Kaido, one of the opponents. Might be able to make Kaido scream. Who's on the other side? Under strong shock, crazy doubts arose in the minds of those who heard Kaido's screams on the Grand Line. But there are also some islands near the battlefield. Feel the scorching heat on the sea far away. Suddenly, someone's figure couldn't help trembling suddenly, as if thinking of something. His eyes were fixed on the sea area far away. No. You can't go wrong. This temperature, absolutely, definitely belongs to the existence of the sea taboo. At the same time, boom, dark clouds are being torn apart by the sky of lightning and thunder here. The collision center that sets off a huge sound wave and explosion. Swish. This is a huge body covered with blue scales that crashed down from the sky. It caused countless shocks. It is none other than Kaido, who is almost seriously injured in the blue dragon form. Boom. Kaido's gigantic body in the form of a green dragon suddenly fell from the sky. It seems that the black shadow covering the sky occupies the entire sky. Afterwards, Kaido slammed into an island like a meteor. Boom. I saw Kaido just touch the surface of the island. The terrible aftermath instantly shattered the earth with a radius of 500 or 600 meters. A lot of gravel and dust are flying, and the shock force visible to the naked eye continues to spread circle by circle. Under the thick dust and smoke, the whole island couldn't stop trembling crazily. It seems as if it will be torn apart in the next second. One can imagine how terrifying is the impact carried by Kaido's huge body. The thick dust and smoke have not yet dissipated. Roar. A roar emerged from the center of the dust cloud. In an instant, all the dust and gravel in the vicinity were crushed, and the surface of the nearby earth was inevitably blown away. The bare ground was exposed. This is Kaido's ferocious faucet sticking out again. It's just compared to what it was just now. Clear and distinct. At this moment, the kakuzu on Kaido's head is half broken, blood dripping, and there are large and terrible burns on the upper part of the dragon's body. It looks like a serious injury. But, if it is an ordinary person, this degree of injury is indeed enough to die. But Kaido is different. As the strongest creature of sea, land and air, eat the devil fruit with the strongest recovery power. This, extremely serious, injury was not life-threatening for Kaido. But even so, at this moment, Kaido looked at Baiyi's figure in disbelief. He actually lost in the head-on collision. Although it was an act of desperation, relying solely on the collision of physique. But since eating the green dragon fruit, relying on strong resilience and physique alone, Kaido thinks that no one in this world can be stronger than him physically. However, what are you kidding? As the 4 emperors pirates of the current era, his opponent is just a remnant from the old era who should have been abandoned by the new era, like Whitebeard, whose physical strength must have been severely depleted after successive battles. Just such an opponent, as long as he shows his true strength. Here today, the man in front of me is destined to die here. Roar. Kaido's eyes flashed with mixed killing intent and fighting intent, and he opened his bloody mouth and roared to the sky. Laozi will definitely kill you. Kill you. Boom. A strong hurricane blows from beneath Kaido's blue dragon form. Then there is the purple thunderbolt falling suddenly from the reclouded sky. Boom. Inside the hurricane, Kaido's body began to surge with flesh and blood, shrinking visibly with the naked eye. At the same time, the powerful aura emanating from Kaido's body has not diminished but increased. As the hurricane and lightning dissipate, This is the center of the big pit that collapsed hundreds of meters, revealing Kaido, who is 7.1 meters tall, holding a mace, 8 fasts, entering the strongest human and beast state. Next second, boom, the compressed breath on Kaido burst out. It suddenly expanded the range of the nearby big pit that was already sunken hundreds of meters. For a moment, the entire island was blown away by Kaido's explosive breath, trembling continuously. And at this moment, Kaido, who showed the strongest human-beast state, stared at Bai Yi and roared fiercely. Watch out! Hum! The pitch-black armament haki first surged onto Kaido's arm, and then passed on to the 8 fasts. Kaido growled. The figure suddenly disappeared in place, leaving only the sunken collapsed ground. Haki is wrapped around the mace, flashing purple lightning light. Head towards Bai Yi with an extremely fast attack. Thunder. 8 trigrams. The air whistled distortedly, and Kaido came to Bai Yi across a distance of hundreds of meters almost instantly. Hit it hard. Good job. Let me see the strength of the so-called 4 emperors. The flame that Reiatsu turned into bathed his whole body. Under Bai Yi's eyes flashed a sharp look. Boom. Moment. The scorching flames, the sky full of dark clouds, and the thunder and lightning. The two collided fiercely again. Boom, boom, boom. Your flame is very weird, but Lousy just needs to not touch it. Lousy doesn't believe it. Your physical strength will be unlimited. Uhu. Kaido, who entered a frenzied fighting state, jumped into the air. The muscles in both arms swell instantly, and the blue veins burst out. Waving the 8 fasts in his hands. In the next second, the air tore apart. A column of stick air pierced through the sky and flew directly towards Bai Yi. Diamond Dysprosium, followed by Kaido's pupils froze. Conqueror's haki exploded. It seemed to shatter the entire void. Kaido then grasped the 8 precepts, fast. Conqueror's haki and the purple lightning falling from the sky wrapped around the iron rod and struck towards Bai Yi violently. Watch out! The air roared, and the space distorted. Facing Kaido, who took out 4 emperors, should have the level of madness. Bai Yi's indifferent eyes were sharp and unchanged. I said, this will be the last scene of this world you saw before you were buried. Ryujin Jakka easily shattered the incoming stick energy as the high temperature that burned the sea erupted. Face the Kaido who follows. The scorching heat instantly detonated everything around Bai Yi. Bright and fiery white light magnifies directly under Kaido's pupil color change. Bai Yi's current physical strength will indeed not be unlimited, as Kaido said. Good job. Shinigami's Reiatsu is not in common with physical strength. After these successive battles, Bai Yi lost part of his physical strength. However, with the remaining half of the physical strength, getting rid of Kaido is enough. Now Bai Yi is actually waiting. It seems that the world government should have no other means to exterminate this time. Witnessing the bright and hot flames drove Kaido back. Bai Yi glanced at the entire battlefield that continues to influence the outside world. The so-called absolute power of the world government that Kong talked about just now. If there is, with the current movement, the world government should have taken action long ago. So it seems. Bai Yi placed Ryujin Jakka with one hand across in front of him. Looking at Kaido, who is in a frantic fighting state in the distance, ready to use more powerful moves. It's time to end this fight. Hot as hell. Boom. 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 Under a sky full of dark clouds, lightning and thunder. A black and red lightning bolt appeared around Kaido. Pour conquerors and armed colors into the 8 precepts. Getting ready to unleash roaring thunder 8 trigrams. Suddenly, the nearby land that was constantly being evaporated to expose the dry seabed suddenly began to shatter. Bright and exuding like white light, the hot pillar of flames tore through the ground and rose suddenly. The earth trembled violently, and the space trembled. The terrifying high temperature heat emitted is like the sun descending on the battlefield. Kaido stood on the battlefield, feeling the oncoming terrifying high temperature, and the water in his body was quickly evaporated. He couldn't help but stretch out his hand in an attempt to resist. Immediately afterwards, Kaido's pupils changed suddenly. A burning sensation came from the palm of the hand holding Bajie. Kaido looked down at the face of Bajie, and Jonin couldn't help showing a look of disbelief. His 8 precepts has been infecting the armed forces all the year round. If it weren't for the strength of a single round, there wouldn't be a supreme mace ranking in this world. His 8 precepts is a weapon that is as famous as the Supreme Sword and 12 works. Even one of the hardest items, the sea stone. Nothing can compare to it. One can imagine. Kaido looked up and quickly looked at the soaring flames dancing in his pupils. Look at the earth that has begun to melt under your feet. The battlefield where is now, has reached such a terrifying temperature. Feeling the palpitating aura of destructive flames coming from nearby, Kaido, who has plenty of combat experience, gritted his teeth, grasped the Ba-Jia-Jai tightly, and wound the Conqueror's haki and the remaining armed colors on the weapon. Then, Kaido put the first target on Bai Yi. That's right. Since these things are made by that guy. So, just kill that man. Whether it's the flaming pillars carrying terrifying flames, or the terrifying heat covering the entire battlefield today, everything will disappear. A look of anxiety flickered in Kaido's eyes. The fierce light is exposed. Hold the 8 precepts fast with both hands. Work hard. The muscles of the upper body protrude piece by piece, and the blue veins are exposed. Follow. Swish. Kaido disappeared instantly, hit by Yi at breakneck speed. This is exactly the advanced version of Thunder 8 trigrams. David Thunder 8 trigrams. It was this trick that almost killed the Son of Destiny in this era in the future on Onijima. Now Kaido is facing the current situation. Just use this trick. However, facing Kaido who is rushing towards him with a surge of speed. Shunpo. Swish. Bai Yi's speed is no less than Kaido's. In an instant, he appeared in front of Kaido who had just pulled in 1/3 of the distance by casting David Thunder 8 trigrams. What is this concept? If someone else is watching the battle, then Bai Yi's speed has reached a speed that cannot be seen by the naked eye. You can probably only see Kaido and Bai Yi disappearing in place in an instant. Then came the sonic boom of the air being torn apart. Next second, Bai Yi meets Kaido who casts David Thunder 8 trigrams. The figures of the two are like speeding trains. The moment we met, boom, the 1,000-meter dry seabed and land on the entire battlefield collapsed. It bounced into the air. With the terrifying craters sinking layer by layer, it seems that the entire seabed has been lifted into the sky. Not only that, the collision caused a part of the pressure to skyrocket, straight to be vented to the sky. That part is Kaido's power. The whole sky seems to be pierced directly. Terrible. Thick dust and debris filled the entire battlefield. Except that blazing hell keeps approaching. Now, the thick dust and smoke dissipated. Bai Yi and Kaido appeared in the positions before the two respectively. The large black robe on Bai Yi's body was shattered, revealing the muscles underneath that contained terrifying strength. And Kaido. It was the eyes widened, and the unimaginable gaze slowly moved to the 8 precepts on the hand. A big mouthful of blood spurted out directly. How is it possible? Kaido sees it all. The weapon he was proud of, CDAC Baji, was cut off by the collision just now. And it's not just the 8 precepts. At this moment, Kaido has a horrible burning wound that spread from his eyes to his entire chest. If it wasn't for Ba-Jia-Jai who resisted most of the power, the temperature on the wound was too high, the blood evaporated instantly, and his physique had eaten the green dragon fruit that was almost the strongest phantom beast. Kaido. His heart trembled. No doubt, I will die. In this world, there really is someone who can kill him. Thoughts arise. Kaido half-kneeled on the ground. The breath suddenly became extremely weak. Witness the nearby pillars of flame that turned the entire world into a furnace. For the first time in my life, I felt the breath of death so close. Unacceptable. Kaido smashed the ground with 5 fingers, forcibly supporting the body, roaring. What are you kidding? You fool. Lousy as Kaido. The resilience of Zone Devil Fruit is really powerful. Bai Yi looked up at Kaido who was not far away, whose body was cut open in half, and who was still alive. I can't help but sigh that the power of Devil Fruit is definitely not as good as the template he has. But Zone Demon Fruit power, everyone is absolutely comparable to the existence of blood cows. That level of injury, if I were an ordinary person, I would have died countless times. Only a natural monster like Kaido plus the physique given by the Phantom Beast ability can forcibly support this level. But, that's all, in front of the remaining hot hell. Even if Bai Yi doesn't continue to do anything next. With Kaido's current state, he is sure to die. Thoughts arise. Bai Yi is going to get rid of Kaido. Suddenly, boom. A muffled sound of the sky bursting suddenly sounded. Followed by, okay. Bai Yi subconsciously looked up to the sky. It was a wave, coming from the sky with a vague sense of threat. And this feeling, Bai Yi looked at Kaido, whose color changed in the distance. Bai Yi could clearly feel it. There's absolutely no way the looming menace in the sky is Kaido. So, there was the only object in Bai Yi's mind that he didn't want to see him live in this world. A coldness flashed across Bai Yi's indifferent eyes. World government, watching the sky slowly tear apart the thousands of meters of clouds, gradually revealing a dazzling white light exuding a destructive aura. Bai Yi was thoughtful. No wonder the final resort wasn't released early on. With the intelligence capabilities of the world government, the first time Kaido got involved, the world government probably already knows the situation here. Never did it before. Nothing more than waiting for the opportunity. An opportunity to directly destroy him while his state is declining. Boom. Countless thunder and lightning flashed in the sky. As the covering area reached an incomparably terrifying number of kilometers, the clouds in the sky were slowly torn apart. The entire first half of the Grand Line seemed to be trembling uncontrollably at this moment. For a while, everyone in the first half of the Grand Line vaguely felt a suffocating and destructive atmosphere coming soon. Subconscious palpitations raised his head extremely. And in the Sabayati Bottom Islands, Naval Headquarters, Amazon Lily, Impel Down, etc. near the Bai Yi and Kaido battlefields, everyone felt the heart-shattering terrifying power for the first time. Hello, hello, hello. This time, then, what is that thing? The sky is torn apart. Someone slowly opened his mouth wide, and his body was half kneeling on the ground uncontrollably. Witnessing that the sky seemed to be pierced by the God, and the suffocating and destructive breath of the God's judgment was about to descend. My whole body is trembling uncontrollably. Can't hide the fear in my heart. Same. Some people subconsciously want to retreat. But suddenly, I realized that my legs didn't listen to me at all. Ship, Captain, that shouldn't be something made by the Four Emperors. Kaido. God, oh my God, does God really exist? In the area where supernovas gathered, Ryujin was shocked, with cold sweat dripping from his forehead. It was hard to describe what he was witnessing for a while. First, the summit war broke out between Naval Headquarters and the Whitebeard pirates. Then there's one of New World's other apex monsters. Four Emperors. Kaido is fighting someone. I don't know who Kaido is fighting though. But that scream, it is enough to represent that Four Emperors. Kaido suffered a loss in the first half of the almost unbridled Grand Line. Then, what do they see now? Far above the cloud-covered sea, a place located at an altitude of several thousand meters appeared, and as it seemed to slowly tear the sky, it has now revealed a whole picture of nearly 10,000 meters. For a while, what I saw and heard today, it actually gave them the illusion that they were in a dream. After all, is all this true? Are you sure you're not joking? Are they really in the real world at this moment? Area 13 of Sabayati Islands. Really, is that? Shaki's pupils narrowed, feeling the destructive aura that appeared over the sea far away. Shaki lost his voice. Rayleigh's eyes under the lens revealed seriousness at the moment. He got up and drew the sword from his waist. His eyes stared at the sky above the extremely distant sea area, which was already emitting glaring light. Said, if there is no wrong guess, I am afraid that the world government has taken action against that side. ... World government. Shaki had a look of shock on his face. What kind of power can? Summit war, Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Kill these Marines. Rescue Ace. Let them know how powerful our Whitebeard pirates are. The summit war started as scheduled. Kong claimed to finish Bai Yi in 15 minutes. Coming again to the idea of summit war. Apparently, as Kong was beheaded by Bai Yi, it completely fell through. However, this moment, whether it's a hands-on marine, or a pirate from the Whitebeard pirates, when he felt the terrifying suffocating breath coming from the extremely distant sea area, his expression changed subconsciously. Old father, what's going on? Many captains almost turned their heads to look in the direction of the sea area completely opposite to Naval Headquarters. Then, when witnessing the source of breath, the dazzling light that tears the sky, everyone's heart trembled suddenly. Over there, what the hell is going on? Did you hear that fool scream from Kaido just now? Who is Kaido fighting? Now there is such a horrible movement again. Is there a more terrifying battle happening on the other side? Zan, Marshal Sengoku, what's that? Now, on the execution stand. The volcanic Marine Vice Admiral below Sengoku witnesses the changes in the sea sky far away. Marine Vice Admiral Huo Shaoshan froze in place, unaware that the cigar in his mouth fell to the ground. It shows the trembling that cannot be contained even as a Marine Vice Admiral at this moment. And throw this question to Sengoku in Huo Shaoshan. In fact, if you look closely, you will find that Sengoku's pupils are also flashing with indescribable shock. Over there, the Operation Demon Slaughter, launched by the world government fleet led by Marshal Kong. Sengoku naturally knows a thing or two. When the Summit War happened, another battlefield had already begun. But, even though Sengoku joined Marine for so many years, he was promoted from Marine Commodore, Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral, Admiral, and then to the current Marine Marshal. Even Sengoku had never heard of the terrifying power that the world government held in its hands. What the hell is that? Sengoku was puzzled, but it cannot be denied. Sengoku's eyes showed a look of incomparable dignity, and his heart was shocked. The world government is not hesitating to achieve this level now, it is completely ready to completely destroy everything over there. 0. This shows that in the eyes of the world government, killing that monster, who is obviously alone. The importance is several times more important than the Summit War, which is enough to change the times. It was this that shocked Sengoku. Could it be that the threat level of that man is already comparable to that of the Rocks pirates back then? At the same time, the entire first half of the Grand Line was constantly shaken, setting off countless storms. World Government, Sanctuary Mariajoy, Pangu City. Deepest, inside a spacious hall symbolizing power. If there are outsiders here, you will definitely be shocked beyond words by the scene here. Because as the highest position of the respective celestial dragons, the 5 elders are kneeling on the ground collectively at this moment. Facing the beginning of the symbolic establishment of the world government, 20 royal families jointly created a void throne that even celestial dragons are not qualified to sit on in order to share power equally. And at this moment, on the void throne, there is actually a person sitting. Master I am, this time. 5 elders, with scars around their eyes and shaggy beards, bowed their heads and said. Although some indifferent lives will be sacrificed, since the sinner can kill Kong, it shows that the sinner already has the power to threaten the world government, just like the Rocks pirates back then, and now, that person will surely die this time. With no doubt in the eyes of the 5 elders. At this moment, the Uranus, which shocked countless people in the Grand Line, finally descended from the sky with destructive power. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.